32 might seem like a large number, but when you put it next to the millions of people who play Clash Royale, who were contenders technically for this Clash Royale League World Finals Qualifier, 32 is not that many, and today we're cutting that number down by half. Hello and welcome, I'm Rich Slayton. This is once again Clash Royale League, the qualifiers, the road to Helsinki, and that World Final in September. I am joined in the middle by two-time regional Clash Royale League champion Joshua A.C. Sharon, and newcomer to our broadcast, the World Cyber Games champion, former Clash Royale League player for Team Liquid, that's Jackson Juicy J Wall. Today, guys, as I already said, we're taking down from 32 players to 16. Josh, how did we get there and where are we going?
That's right. Good morning to some, good afternoon to the rest. Here we are. This is the roadmap overall. Soon. All right, there we go. Here's the format roadmap. Stage 1 was a 20-win challenge. For some of us, it was extremely difficult, and we only got 5 wins. For others that are still in this tournament, they were able to compete and get that 20 wins. Stage 2 was the ladder format. Stage 3, which happened last Saturday, was the double elimination. And now we have made it to the Swiss bracket, Stage 4, over halfway through this entire roadmap. And we are so close to getting to Helsinki, the World Finals, from 128 down to 32 to now just 16. This is the format overview. On the left, we do have the 5 stages, and we will have a last chance qualifier for I believe it's 2 lucky, well, not lucky, great players to finally make it. In the middle, best of 3 matches using the dual format, the same format that we've been using for the past year or so. And, I mean, that's what it is. Top 10 players move on to the World Finals. That's what everybody is vying for. That's what it's all about. Rich, let's take a look at what's happening today.
Today, as mentioned before, is a Swiss bracket. How does it work? Well, 32 players all start out 0-0, and as you change your record, you play other players with the same record. So in round 2, the 1-0s play the 1-0s, the 0-1s play the 0-1s, and so on. Round 3, the 2-0s play the 2-0s, the 0-2s play the 0-2s, the 1-1s play the 1-1s. But the big, most important number today, the magic number, is 3. 3 wins and you are in. You are through to our next stage, to our top 16, but that's also the horrific number. 3 losses and you are out. 3 losses and your CRL journey ends right here today. No shot at a world title and no shot at that big grand prize. Juicy J, talk to us about our prize pool.
Yeah, so all the players that made this far are actually in the money, but they're competing to make it to the World Finals, make it to Finland, and compete for that $250,000 prize pool. That is a lot of money, Rich.
That's a huge grand prize, $250,000 to our winner. That's a big one indeed. Of course, lots of money all the way top to bottom, as you just mentioned, Jackson, everyone here in the prize pool. But every stage that you move on, that's a whole lot more money. Top 16, of course, if you do make it all the way to World Finals, you are guaranteed that minimum of $20,000. Today, we're going to whittle down from 32 to 16. Of course, 6 players already all the way through with those golden tickets throughout the year. Josh, we have 32 players here today. 16 move on, 16 go home. Who were some of your favorite picks to move on to our next weekend?
Well, okay, so I could cheat. I could say Air Surfer, I could say Greco, I could say players of that caliber, but I think that's a little bit too easy. So 2 players I really want everybody to watch out for. JP, who we saw knock off Ruben, and just excellent gameplay overall in last week. And then another player that I really want to look out for, Osama. I mean, that man, I'm fairly certain, I could be wrong, I could be lying to you all, but I don't think I am. I think he was in the lower bracket just game 1, and then he won 4 straight games, 3 straight games in order to qualify for this week. And whenever you are a player that is able to come from behind and just push through and actually be able to qualify, that takes a lot of just mental fortitude, and that's what we expect from players who are going to be able to move on to Helsinki.
Well, of course, 10 of these 32 will move on, and we'll talk more about how that works as we go through into our next weekend with our top 16 and then our last chance qualifier. But that's for next weekend, and of course today we've got some gameplay to get to, so we'll see you a bit later there, Josh, and we're going to stick around here with Juicy J. Jackson, we're about to get into your casting debut here for Clash Royale League. Before anything, congratulations and welcome to the program, man.
Thanks, Rich. I mean, it's been a blast so far. Last couple days have been crazy, but I'm really excited to do it. I think it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun today. And before we get into today's matchup, anybody that you specifically have your eye on to make it through our 50-50 shot today?
So honestly, I've been seeing like how much work that Sweep has been putting in. Sweep does his own analytical stuff, and he also practices like no other. I would not be surprised to see him make it through this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting pick. I got another guy there's a few people in this tournament today who kind of looked like they maybe had moved on from Clash Royale or weren't really grinding the same way. Sweep being one of those, of course, formerly of Pain Gaming. Another one who's going to be in our first featured match of the day, your former teammate, the former world champion, the one-time and considered by many still the GOAT of Clash Royale, Surgical Goblin is back and now truly contending for a shot at World Finals. Juicy, you shared a house with the guy, you're on a team with the guy, you gave him lots of war room talks as you guys warmed up for your matches in 2018. Talk to me about Surge's comeback.
Yeah, Surgical Goblin, like you said, I mean, if you ask most people, he's probably the best player of all time. He has so many accomplishments. He dominated the scene for so long. He's one player I didn't really see, like, coming back and doing something like this, but because of his experience and because of his sheer talent, I do think if he does make it through the World Finals, he's a really good shot to win it all.
Well, we'll see, of course, if he can get there. And that's actually a really good point there. I'm very curious to see when we do get to World Finals, Jackson, what happens with the players who have live stage experience and those who have made the come up through 2020 to now only through online qualifiers. You know as well as anybody, there's a huge difference playing on stage versus playing online.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, Surgical Goblin, ask most people, and he's probably the best player of all time. If you ask most people right now, Muhammad Light is probably the best player, but with little to no live experience, you never know what could happen.
And that is a really interesting point. The current top guy is has not really competed live, so that's going to be an X factor as we get into our live event in Helsinki, Finland. And speaking of getting to that live event, you can follow along all the action in the tournament hub inside the Clash Royale app. Go ahead, open the app on the left-hand side. You'll see that beautiful Clash Royale League logo like you see in the top right-hand corner, and that will get you to all the results, ability to watch some specific matches, and, of course, follow the action all the way to our World Finals in September 23rd through 25th. But for now, we're into our action today, and you have Surgical Goblin on the top of your screen, King Tico at the bottom of the pictures. We'll get those flipped here for you guys just one moment. And looks like Surge running some variation of Mortar Miner, and King Tico... Ooh, RG Giant Skeleton. Could this be... No, it's not. I was going to say, could this be a variation of Little Chen? But not now. Not with the Fisherman, not with the Log.
Yeah, classic Mortar pick from Surge. Really, really consistent. Tico bringing out the Giant Skelly RG. Wondering about the big spell here. Really weird to see the Ghost as well. Usually it's Ghost or Giant Skelly. I would say from Tico, probably going to be seeing some, maybe an Earthquake. Could be Lightning or Fireball. The Lightning or Fireball is really expensive when you got these double 6 elixir cards in your deck. But who knows what could happen with the dual formatting.
Tico, the Brazilian here with a 79.59 personal best, just shy of that 8K mark. And at the moment, it is Surgical Goblin who's putting it to the Brazilian as the miner goes wild on the left-hand side down to 1572. Archer Queen will do some initial damage here for Tico, or his second chunk of damage, but the lead heavily in the favor of the Dutchman.
Yeah, I think Surgical Goblin, he's trying to get as much damage as he can this single elixir time, whereas Tico's trying to kind of, mitigate that damage and wait until that higher elixir modes where he can really build some Giant Skelly roll giant pushes along with like the Fisherman, Archer Queen, stuff like that.
Going to be very difficult, it feels like, though, Jackson, for the Royal Giant to break through this Mortar deck.
Yep, the Mortar, the Guards. Guards one of the best counters to Royal Giant. Their DPS is absolutely insane. Tico does have the Log and E-Spirit, like maybe a prediction Log plus E-Spirit to try and deal with that. But then the Bats come down. Having no E-Spirit for the Bats, once again, Bats, same thing as Guards, huge amount of DPS.
Snowball plus Guards work on that right-hand side. Royal Giant is not going to get a shot. Archer Queen is a danger. Bats might need to come out here. No E-Spirit behind it. Archer Queen will do some chip. Nope, nice pick up there with the Valkyrie. Surgical Goblin currently holding on to that lead, but being forced to make some choices here, take a little bit of damage as we go closer and closer to sudden death overtime.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here for Tico is that he does want to go like same lane as his opponent, just to basically block up this lane from the miners, like this miner coming down right now with the giant skellies and stuff like that and fishermen's. But at the same time, we've talked about how difficult it is to break through for Tico, so maybe a split lane pressure is something that he's going to try and get down here.
Yeah, nice little defensive miner plus bats here. You see, just as Jackson was talking about, bats coming out after the E-Spirit, so no real solve for that on the Brazilian side. 9:34, the mark on the left-hand lane. Log for the reset. Skeleton does pick up the Archer Queen. No finishing off damage there as we go to our final 90 seconds.
Yeah, once again, I'm very interested to see what Tico's last spell is. Since he is not using the Earthquake or anything like that on the mortars, it's probably a Lightning. And I think Surge realizes that. He's playing his Archer Queens in a way to prevent lightning value, like either high or maybe not, even not at all, like focusing more on using the guards and the bats and the mortar and the Valkyrie and stuff like that on the defense.
Oh, and look at that miner placement. Way to the outside, anticipating the Fisherman from Surgical Goblin. So that's a lot of damage with the miner on the right-hand lane. Giant Skeleton plus Ghost plus Archer Queen plus Fish Boy, and Surgical Goblin down to 4 Elixir at the moment. Has to find a way to hold on here, and that Giant Skeleton, a bit of a problem. Lightning gets high onto the mortar. Royal Giant now, very healthy. Log to support. That's a lot of damage on the right-hand side. 634, just like that. Tico's back in this one.
And all of a sudden, this is a really close game. Like I said, Tico did a really good job of mitigating until he made that triple elixir. Surge does get quite a bit of damage on this left-hand side, and Poison will do enough. Can this RG connect?
The RG trying to do it, 10 HP, and Surgical Goblin starts us off with a bang, 10 HP. If you're not awake yet, you certainly are now.
Oh my goodness, wow. Yeah, Coffee's got nothing on that right there, Rich, wow.
Woo! Let's go. What a photo finish, and we are right back in it. No time to reset the adrenaline, just carry that thing on into game number 2.
Yeah, Surge has got to be feeling good after that one. From Tico's perspective, I mean, it's really hard to stay focused after something like that, especially with the crazy comeback that he did pull off. But we're hopping this next game. Looks like a Drill Bridge Fan mirror matchup, actually.
I was going to say that Surge must be feeling really good having Dark Prince against the Drill, and then, oh, look at that, Dark Prince against Drill on the other side. But look at the damage here to open things off. King Tico in a whole lot of trouble. We are less than a minute in, and already Surgical Goblin has taken that right-hand tower down below the halfway mark.
Yeah, I really like Surge's choice of his drill placement there. When you are in a matchup like this, a mirror matchup, where you both have really good counters to each other's drill, this drill placement actually, as you noticed on the right-hand side, it made it so that the Dark Prince was not able to splash onto the Goblin that spawned towards the back of the tower, and that's what made all the difference there.
Magic Archer getting a little bit of geometry right now on behalf of Tico. Going to get this left-hand tower down very close, so not out of the game yet. Good opportunistic gameplay here by Tico, and he has plenty of elixir to stay in the fight.
Yeah, he's up some elixir as well. He's got this Golden Knight down. Surge is going to have to counter that with the Dark Prince. That's really interesting. I would not be surprised to see Tico going in for a drill pretty soon with that Dark Prince out of cycle. Surge does have still a lot of good answers, but nothing compared to the Dark Prince.
Drill into that left-hand lane, and wow, the connection. The huge connection here. 9:45 remaining with a minute left in regulation time. This match has completely swung in favor of Tico.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta give it to Tico here. Doing a really good job of, not letting the nerves get to him and also not letting that really poor start get to him. He's kind of switching lanes and taking control of the match here.
Dark Prince on the right-hand side working. Electro Wizard at the top does take care of the Magic Archer this time. You can see some shaking heads from the peanut gallery here. Honestly, I'm shocked there's only 3 spectators in game for this one.
True. Dark Prince coming in is going to be met instantly by that Dark Prince. Almost 0 Goblin damage taken, but the Golden Knight does connect. Magic Archer locking on the right-hand side. He was going to stun that, prevent that, but the Cannon Card is going to snipe this out. Surge has got quite counter push right now. Let's see if he can capitalize on what he's got on the board here.
And yeah, there you go. Cannon Cart and Dark Prince. Cannon Cart stays on its wheels. Goblin goes around the back. Dark Prince nowhere near that one Goblin. Magic Archer picked up by the Barber on the left-hand side. 2 minutes left in sudden death overtime. There's a lot on the board right now. The Golden Knight will not get onto the tower as it gets picked up by the Cannon Cart, but suddenly it's all pressure. What a NATO move! And the reverse NATO to keep the game alive. Magic Archer tries to get the lineup, cannot get it. Golden Knight for the pickup. Tico fighting for his life right now. Surgical Goblin trying his best to pour it on. Tico puts his drill one direction. The opposite direction goes Surgical Goblins. This time Dark Prince does not miss the pickup. Golden Knight does put damage on the right-hand side. This is absolutely crazy here, Juicy.
The Golden Knight is not able to connect. You have to remember that Tico did have the 3-card cycle activated when he went with his last drill, so he's going to be back to it right away here. Dark Prince is taking the left side tower down dangerously low. Drills from both players here, and that's going to be game.
45 HP collectively. Surgical Goblin winning his first match by 55 total HP across 2 games. What an insane way to start off our day. The former world champion winning both of his games by double-digit HP numbers. Woo, boy! That's what we like about Clash Royale.
That was a really intense first game. I can't believe that Dark Prince almost took that right-hand side tower at the very end for Tico there. That was super close.
It was absolutely insane. So Surgical Goblin now will move into the 1-0 side, play a 1-0 player in his next game. Tico, again, not out. You have 3. You get 3 wins, you're in. You get 3 losses, you're out. So even 2-2, hey, you get a 1 game to win it all, potentially. We'll see some of those later today, obviously. But man, right now, what a big win for Surgical Goblin. I cannot believe how close that was today.
Yeah, really close. I mean, it's just like the 20-win challenge, right? 3 losses and you're out. Tico's still got some time here. He's still got some games to prep. The biggest thing is, can he keep the mental? Can he have that mental fortitude you were talking about a bit ago with IMJP? That's going to be the biggest thing for him if he's going to make it through the rest of these games.
Yeah, he's going to have to definitely stay focused, obviously, and recovery so important here because it's 3 in, 3 out, and that's pretty much the entire ball game for you. Surgical Goblin, game number 1. I mean, that one came down to the absolute wire with that 10 HP. Talk to me a bit, Jackson, about what happened in this mirror match, because it seemed like Surge had everything sewn up on the front end, and then that seemed way too close given the early lead that Surgical Goblin was able to pull out.
I think the biggest thing in that matchup is Magic Archer value and Golden Knight value, paired with the Tornado, obviously. Tico did a really good job, once again, coming back. Like, just in that first game, he did a good job of coming back, but Surge, with his really early damage lead, able to hold on to it just enough to take that W.
And here we go, catching up with one of our other matches, Pandora up against Vitor. So we have a couple forum members of Pain Gaming in this one. Vitor right now, Sweep, obviously. And, of course, their former teammate already through to World Finals and Lucas X Gamer. So we did, of course, have Wallace last weekend. So that 2020 kind of upstart Pain Gaming squad kind of making their presence known here in 2022.
Absolutely. Looks like these players are going to be waiting to double Elixir here. A Tombstone drops from Pandora. Most likely a Lava Hound Mirror matchup, maybe, if I had to guess. And Vitor does go for that Lava Hound in the back. Barber opts lane from Pandora, so actually not Lava Hound, maybe a Graveyard deck, actually.
And the Giant, or the Skeleton King, does make that seem even more likely. Talk to me about the principles of this matchup, Juicy.
Oh, so Pandora actually using a Golem. So it's a beatdown mirror matchup. I would say most of the time the heavier beatdown deck wins. That means the Golem usually going to be winning here, especially with that Tornado for that balloon. Vitor does have the Inferno Dragon, which can be really useful at taking down big units. But if Pandora plays perfectly, I would say that he will probably win, especially with this very nice King Tower activation early on.
And now Lava up one more time does Vitor. And I'm going to gather here in this matchup that pressure might be the key for the Portuguese player.
Yeah, I would say pressure is important. Pandora, maybe a slight mistake. I feel like he needs to get some golems down here. It does make sense that he doesn't want to golem into the Inferno Dragon. So Vitor applying that pressure, definitely getting some early damage in right now. I would also say that going opposite lane of your opponent is important in this match. He decides to go Lava on the back, same lane here. The Inferno Dragon will help out, but notice how this Night Witch is constantly going to be spawning these bats and helping out versus the Inferno Dragon and the Lava Hound push.
We'll see if Vitor gets some Skelly Dragons down again for some of these bats. The Inferno Dragon does get onto the Golem. Lightning, though, does get the big-time reset. Golem going to go down, but not before bursting onto tower. 1783, now 17 under 1700 on the right-hand side, but damage now in for Pandora on Vitor's right-hand tower, about 300 HP separating these two with 90 seconds left.
Skelly King in the back, that ability is pretty filled up here. Inferno Dragon at the bridge, kind of predicting this Golem. The bat does distract it. It is locked on the Skelly King now. Skelly King ability is going to pop before it dies, and another Fireball comes down, but this Baby Dragon is not affected by the Fireball. This is a big Golem push right now. The Lava Hound isn't nearly as threatening as the Golem is, but Vitor actually cleaning up this quite nicely, tanking that Baby Dragon with the Mighty Miner. Lava Hound constantly chipping away.
Having Mighty Miner plus Inferno Dragon certainly giving more defensive options here for Vitor against the Golem. Now Balloon, and that should push to the... Oh no, the Tombstone pulls. Does the Balloon push to the outside? And it does. Tombstone high to pull that Balloon back, but this is really troublesome spots for Pandora. Can he prevent the shot? NATO to pull back. Lightning does kill. Tower up for the moment. Golem plus Skeleton King down to the bottom right-hand side. 94 HP. Can Vitor get it done? Fireball in. GG, well played. Vitor takes game number 1.
Really close game. That Fireball is the MVP for Pandora, or for Vitor rather. Using the Fireball just clean up those Night Witch and everything else on the board there.
And there you go. That's the end of that one. We, of course, we're joining that one already in progress. Man, Juicy, we've gotten some great ones here today. We have a 55 HP total match between Surgical Goblin and Tico, and then we joined that last game there and Vitor. That was, even though there was the scoreline was a bit further, that still was a fairly close ending.
Yeah, that Golem push, if that Fireball came down just a couple seconds later, I wouldn't be surprised if Vitor's tower went down on the right-hand side there.
Well, it didn't. Instead, Vitor does get the win, and he'll move into that 1-0 side. And, of course, we'll get the matchups for that 1-0 side fairly soon. Some other matches of note. I think we'll get AC in here in a little bit to talk about some of them. But one of the big ones here, Air Surfer taking the 2-0 win over Ender. And, yes, we are going to get Joshua AC Sharon back in here. So let's go ahead and jump him on screen. Josh, I know you're excited about that one. Your boy Air Surfer going through round number 1 with the dub.
Okay, so yes, I should be excited, but I should be more excited. I missed the ending. I had it on my phone, and I missed the ending to both of his games, and game 1 was an incredible comeback. Last time I looked at my phone, he was down 1500 HP. I watched the broadcast for like 22 seconds. Surgical Goblin comes out with this incredible victory, and then I looked back at my phone, and my phone's off. I reopened the app, and he's won the game. So I missed both of the games, but they were very exciting. I do know that.
Well, that's obviously great news for him. Any other major updates from the off-screen matches that we've had here in round number 1?
Well, let's see. My 2 Dark Horse picks, one of them already lost oh, yes, both of them lost round 1. Both of my Dark Horse picks
Unlucky.
are 0-1. So, yeah, extremely unfortunate. And then one other thing that I was looking at, Morton versus Bansito. Bansito took the round 1 victory.
Wow. So Morton does go down in round number 1. Let's go ahead and jump through a few of these results here. Beyond that one, Sandbox taking the 2-0 over Taekuno. So Sandbox stays in the upper side of this bracket. Dudu taking the win over Greco, I believe. So that's a tough one for Greco. Hubi takes down Keith in their round 1 matchup. Sweep Jackson's pitch does move into the 1-0 side of things. Remember, nobody out until they lose 3 today, as a reminder for everyone at home. Hugo losing his first round to Abbas. We just saw Surge win. Lord Seb taking down Pedro. Luminary with the 2-1 win over Line. So the former no-tilt world champion falling here on the first one. As you mentioned, Bancido over Morton. Doom, who I know a lot of people have been picking as someone they want to go through, taking down Sub in our first round. Trainer Toby over Nikoko. Capgun with the big 2-0 over Yuya. Adriel, as you mentioned, taking down IMJP, and Adriel was my pick, and we'll talk more about him a little bit later today. And then, as you mentioned, Osama losing a 2-1 to the popular Japanese pro KK. So KK on the upper side of things. Juicy, any big surprises there for you in terms of those results?
I mean, I think the one that I'm most surprised about is the Capgun over Yuya. I thought Yuya would really, I don't know, I thought he would kind of go undefeated, or not undefeated, but I feel like he would do better than that. Capgun, really good player, but maybe haven't seen him as much in tournaments like this.
Well, does take a big win, and of course, these are fast. These dual modes with the in-game version, right? It's a little bit different. The planning process. You know, Josh, you've been watching through both the in-game, everything's pre-built version of dual modes, and the building decks version as you go through, like we'll also do at World Finals. Two totally different animals. How does that deck building process change when you're pre-building like you are for today versus the flexibility you might have in the duels mode we'll be doing for World Finals?
Yeah, I mean, it does get really difficult when you... I feel like you don't have a lot of room for error with a lot of your decks. So you have to go meta, you have to go these 6 possible meta decks, and you can't really stray away from that. But as I say that, we did see 2 Golem decks. Well, okay, you guys saw one. I actually saw Air Surfer, which I couldn't wait to bring up on stream. Air Surfer actually did win with his Golem deck, so that was very exciting. I actually have a list of things that I'm not allowed to talk about when it's you and Andrew on the broadcast. So when it's just me and Jackson, like, I have like 3 or 4 things that I'm really excited to talk about. But yeah, when it's like pre-built, you just gotta stick with what's best.
One of the challenges I know that's been brought up in the past is if there is a card or a deck that's kind of dominating the meta, having to build in a way where you have 2, if not 3 responses that are all viable against that card or against that deck. Jackson, over to you on this one. Is there anything in this specific meta right now that you feel like players have to build their dual set around to make sure they're not caught off, like completely caught flat-footed in any of their matchups?
I think the biggest things are champions, especially like the Archer Queen. If you don't have something really lucrative versus the Archer Queen, like a Giant Skelly or maybe a Roll Delivery or Lightning, it could be detrimental. The Archer Queen can get so much value. I think the other card that really is dominating this meta is like the Giant Skeleton in the Mirror. And those cards don't really have as much counter ability. Like, you don't have to worry about what cards, like there are cards that counter those cards. But what I'm trying to say is, those are cards you have to be careful where you put them in your duel decks because they are so important in the meta. Obviously, you don't want to get in a situation where you've used the Giant Skeleton, but you're going to like need it as a crutch maybe for a game 3 or something like this. I don't know if that makes sense. Totally understand that, and as someone who has been riding the Giant Skeleton to success this last couple of seasons, I totally understand the power of the Giant Skeleton right now. We're getting some of our matchups put together here for round number 2 as they're getting their sorting. So let's go ahead and review some of these upcoming matchups. First one that's coming down for our next round, 2 winners, Air Surfer and Vitor. Josh, talk to me a little bit about that matchup.
Okay, yeah, so Air Surfer versus Vitor. I'm going to take a look at Air Surfer's decks because I think it was his game number 2, he used Golem, and he had a lot of success. And I think game number 1, he ended up running RG, but I do want to kind of just confirm that real quick. Okay, yeah, so Golem, yes. Okay, so he used Golem and RG. I mean, Air Surfer currently is kind of just sticking with what he knows. Vitor ran the Lava Loon deck in game number 3, so he has kind of messed around with a few things that aren't necessarily, you know, full on meta. So just based off that, it's exciting for Vitor because he knows that if his opponent is just going to stick with what's within the meta, he can kind of get creative and he can kind of just, you know, switch one or two cards just to make it a little bit easier if he's going against straight meta, straight minor cycle, straight, you know, RG or whatever is just familiar.
Another big round 2 matchup here. This is your dark horse pick there, Juicy J. Sweep in that upper side of things, going up against the number 4 finisher from last year's regular season in Sandbox, or top 4 finisher in Sandbox. Thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, both really good players. Let me pull it up real quick. Looks like we have... Yeah, looks like... Wait, Sweep played against Gabo, right?
Sweep played round 1, I believe, against Gabo. Yep, and then round 2 now he's going to be up against Sandbox.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, Sweep versus Sandbox in round 2. I mean, it could go either way. I think that it really is going to depend on Sandbox's mood. Like, I think that Sandbox is a player that can be affected. Since he did win his first round, like, I could see him, like, riding on that momentum. But like I said, I think Sweep, he's so prepared in every way. He practices a lot, and he's always looking for snipes. Like, going back to deck picking with the duels formatting, like you guys are talking about, a lot of the time, you are going towards comfort, like you said with the Air Surfer, like Golem, RG. Whereas with Sweep, he doesn't have comfort. He's good at everything. And he's just like really looking to get that matchup. So it's going to depend, I think, if Sweep can hit that snipe. If Sweep can hit that snipe, I think he can win. If not, Sandbox, riding that momentum, will probably be able to overpower him in the matchup, potentially.
Well, those are some of our 1-0 matchups on the 0-1 side. A matchup that maybe a lot of people didn't anticipate being on the 0-1 side. That's IMJP and Yuya, which is a very interesting one. IMJP, of course, known for a long time with his sort of boom or bust style of gameplay, very opportunist, whereas Yuya, originally a Golem player, obviously, he's not going to be going Golem more than one game this time around. Josh, you know, you picked IMJP to win in round number 1. It didn't happen in round number 1. What about this matchup here, round 2 against Yuya?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Yuya might honestly be a bad matchup for him because I think Yuya is very calm and collected. He is kind of just a grinded out kind of player where if the matchup needs to take 5 minutes, he's willing to go 5 minutes. And JP is kind of where he wants to dominate early on and he wants to run the hog cycle and he, you know, earthquake you to death and try and finish off the game as quickly as possible. So that actually might not be the matchup that he's looking for, especially considering, I mean, obviously all these players are so talented, but Yuya, as you know, Yuya in the lower bracket already is kind of shocking to me.
It certainly is. Jackson, thoughts on that same matchup? Do you concur with Josh's perspective on Yuya versus JP, or do you diverge from that assessment?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Generally, if you got, you know, if his one trick is a Golem and he's more used to like heavier decks, the later it gets in the game, the better it's going to be. The one thing I would disagree with is like, you know, sometimes within a beatdown versus like quicker cycle kind of control matchup, you know, you never know, like maybe JP will be able to overpower him in the single elixir time and get that game done quickly. It's going to depend if Yuya can hold on and survive until that triple elixir time, because you never know what's going to happen triple elixir. It can get pretty crazy.
I saw a request in the Twitch chat for who Morton is playing this next round, and someone pointed out Morton already lost. Yes, but as a reminder, folks, this is a Swiss bracket. And I don't know if we can get that bracket graphic back on screen to give everyone sort of the idea of how this works. But Morton does have at least 2 more, in fact, at least 2 more matches going, depending on how those go, possibly more, because again, you have 3 wins or 3 losses. So here we are in stage number 2, where the 16-1-0 players will play the 16-0-1 players, and as you can see, Morton being one of the 0-1 players, he still has plenty of roads back to winning 3 matches. He can go 3-1 or 3-2. That's the big story today. 3 is the magic number. You win 3, you're into our next stage. You lose 3, you are out of the tournament. So right now, everyone at least 2 losses away from being out, if not 3 losses away for half of our players. And speaking of Morton, the matchup for him in round number 2 will be against Pedro. Not ex-Pedro. Ex-Pedro got knocked out the other day, but against Pedro. So Morton does have an interesting matchup coming up next. Man, every single round, guys, your back gets just a little bit more against the wall. For some people, they get closer and closer. Some people, they get closer and closer to being eliminated. That stress level with this sort of tournament, Josh, talk to me about the players on the lower side. This isn't a double elimination. It's not like they're totally freaking out yet, but you got to be feeling some of those nerves right now.
Yeah, it's hard to come down from 0-2 to make it 3-2. 0-1 is certainly plausible for you to be able to come back, able to make it to that, that 3 victories before 3 losses. But 0-2, it's tough. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But all 16 of these players, I mean, they have to be so nervous right now. You cannot go down 0-2. This is absolutely a must-win game, no doubt about it.
Juicy, talking about nerves, you've been in some big moments, of course. One of those big ones playing on the big stage at World Cyber Games for that championship. Was that your biggest nerves moment in your Clash Royale career?
Honestly, people ask me about this all the time. I feel like the more nerves I have, the better I play. It's a weird thing. I don't think that's how most people are. It's also why I really like, content creation stuff, because I feel like the more people are watching me, the better I perform. And that's probably not the case for most people. Like what Josh was saying, going down to 0-2, like the amount of stress there, it's not exactly the stress of like needing to win. It's also the stress of, you never know what could happen in Clash Royale. Like sometimes maybe you just get one bad matchup or one unlucky mistake, and that's what can throw you off. So once you get to that 0-2 situation, maybe it's not as much about the nerves if you can control your nerves, but it is more of like you have no room for error anymore. And, that could be a big problem. Right now, no one's at 0-2 yet. A couple 0-1s right now. So, maybe they're not feeling that sort of sensation quite yet. But, they need to win at that point, Like, you don't want to put yourself in that situation.
Well, we'll see who does and who doesn't. Juicy, we'll see you in a little bit. Right now, Josh and I get into the action for the next round, our round 2 gameplay. And as a reminder of you, everyone who's watching at home, if you do want to follow along the action, you can go into your app and click on the Clash Royale League logo on the left-hand side of your screen. It looks like that one that's down on our bottom left-hand side under Josh there. Click on that logo. You can get to the Tournament Hub where you can follow along all the action. Make sure you have the updates as necessary. See who's winning, who's losing, even able to watch some of the action there as well. So go ahead and check out that Tournament Hub. You can see all the matchups. A quick matchup review of what's happening in round number 2. We didn't announce all of them. Osama and King Tico will be facing off. Let's get through some of these 0-1 matchups. Osama and King Tico, Keith versus Nikoko, Pandora, and Tekuno. Morton versus Pedro, Ender versus Hugo, IMJP versus Yuya, and then Line versus Sub. And the last one on that side of things, Gabo versus Greco. Remember, Greco losing in that first round. On the winner's side, Surgical Goblins round 2 matchup will be against Abbas, Cal, Sandbox versus Sweep, KK taking on Lord Seb here in the 1-0 side of things. Adriel against Bancito, who just beat Morton in our first round. Hubi taking on Luminary, Trainer Toby against Dudu, Capgun against Doom, and of course Vitor versus Air Surfer. Josh, there's some good matches there. Which one's your favorite out of those? I gotta guess it's Vitor versus Air Surfer.
Yeah. That's going to be the game that I am definitely going to be watching on the side. It's got to be one of the most incredible matches overall. One really cool thing, and as you were listing off the names, I was just hoping that it was going to remain true, and it absolutely did. There are 5 players that are on the Cal team, and 4 of them are in the winner's bracket, and there's only one that is in the lower bracket, and that's because he played against a Cal teammate.
Well, they certainly threw their money around and signed some top-tier players. Of course, the biggest signing would have to be the signing of Ruben, who did not make it through our last weekend, but still a lot of talented players here on that SKC lineup. Lord Seb, Sandbox, Sub. Whole lot of players here. Doodoo, Doom leading that Cal banner as we go into our matchup of Vitor and Air Surfer. And interesting, getting a bit of a drill mirror matchup here in game number 1.
That's right, Giant Skeleton across the bridge with the help of the cannon cart is going to be able to have a setup, and this is something that I saw in Surgical's game earlier on. It is, a lot of these players are messing up the technique with the Golden Knight, and they're just not getting the proper dashes right there. Golden Knight only gets to the Giant Skeleton, and Air Surfer responds with some of the most value I've ever seen from a Golden Knight, able to hit the E-Wiz, the tower, and another troop, but it's been 22 seconds, and I forgot what troop it was. So, and a third troop as well.
And correction here, we're joining this in game number 3. So we are now at the third and final of this matchup between Vitor and Air Surfer. So here we go. Winner of this one will be 2-0, and the loser will fall into the middle 1-1 portion of our Swiss bracket.
E-Wiz is going to be able to protect the bar barrel, and he might not have an answer for it. Cannon cart, I don't think, is in range. It's not going to matter because the E-Wiz is placed defensively right on top from Vitor, but Air Surfer is dominating this game right now. The NATO is going to be able to take out the Magic Archer, but right now, 700 HP lead, 4 Elixir lead as well, and currently domination as well as a good matchup for Air Surfer. The difference between the Dark Prince and the Ghost is going to be massive just because of that constant pressure you have with the Ghost being placed in front of the troops. It just makes it so awkward for defenses on Vitor's side.
So you prefer that offensive pressure and the 1 elixir less for cycle over the Dark Prince being slightly better as a counter to the drill?
You know, it's weird, and it's something that I've recognized as of late. But absolutely, and I think the main reason is because I'm not often seeing the drill as the reason for a victory. A lot of the time I see a win because of a Golden Knight dash, a Magic Archer snipe, a lot of external factors instead of it solely being the drill, even though that is your win condition.
And that's one of the fun things about this combination and why it's so popular in various forms is you essentially have 3 win conditions, or you could call it 2 with 1 full-on win condition and 2 half-win conditions. Right now, switching lanes is Vitor, and it's paying off. Dark Prince hits heavy, and just like that, we're now under 200 HP separation with 30 seconds left.
Cannon cart not able to snipe over the middle, so cannon cart plus another cannon cart on top of the opposing cannon cart. Drill is going to get the tower down to 1099, but the right side for Air Surfer down to 815. A lot of pressure on the right side, and Vitor does not have enough. Giant Skeleton, no Giant Skeleton on Vitor's side. 3 troops on top of the tower. Can he defend it? Ghost plus Drill, 936 to 815.
NATO needed for Air Surfer to win this one. Can he pull them away? Doesn't do it in time. 878, wow. And what a close one. Vitor comes out on top in game number 3, winning this one by just 63 HP. Call it double-digit Saturday because it seems like every single game is being decided by these slim margins.
Wow, Vitor comes storming back, and I didn't even recognize that it was Giant Skeleton versus non-Giant Skeleton. And there were so many different, opportunities if Air Surfer didn't have the Giant Skeleton. But it was great NATOs on Vitor's end, collected all the troops right next to the tower, getting incredible dashes, incredible value with that, and just constant pressure. He did not have enough. He did not have... It was constant pressure with no opposing pressure. And when that happens, you are eventually going to take the lead, and there's going to be that one last push, but Air Surfer just couldn't get it done.
And it was interesting, that last couple of pushes with the drill on the left-hand side where the lead was had for him for a long time. Going to that front spot, I know it's not the exact same as Miner, but drill also seems a little bit, has its difficulty of predicting. And if you put it on that outside, you have that Goblin that can kind of roll around to the back away from the Dark Prince. Doesn't end up making that move. How much did having to sort of recommit to a brand new tower end up affecting the outcome of that one?
Yeah, the fact that it was swapped lanes and just Really, I think a lot of it comes down to the quick cycle once it hit triple elixir. And I think that's probably what we have to look at the most. And just the fact that the giant skeleton was too clunky in the deck. And so in that mirror match, even though I do like Ghost over Dark Prince, I do have to say in that mirror match, I think not having the giant skeleton has to be very good for the for the player.
So here we go, Line taking on Sub, and this might be a quick 2-0, or no, this would be a tie-up here for Line if he can get this last bit of damage here. Looks like he will, so join that one just in time for Line to tie things up and take us to game number 3. Let's look at the decks they played already. Line played Royal Giant and now Royal Hogs. On the other side of things, Mother Witch with Royal Hogs, and then Mortar Miner with Archer Queen for Sub.
I think that Giant Skeleton Royal Hogs deck should be one of your decks no matter what. I think we've talked a lot about using champions as, kind of what you build around. But I think at this point, with all the success that I've seen from this deck, all the talk from pro players, and just the success that I've seen regular players have with that kind of deck, I think it's absolutely a necessity to have that in your arsenal.
Cannon Cart working on that left-hand lane. So Line now going Miner here after we saw, or we didn't see after Sub went with Miner in game number 1. Valk, of course, definitely nice for the drill. And Josh, this deck cycles quite a bit faster than what Sub's running here with this drill deck.
Yeah, so the Valk plus the guards, he's going to have a lot of responses to that drill, and it's going to be kind of awkward to set up pushes. You can't overwhelm exactly correctly because, you can Valk on top, you can poison plus log. You have a lot of answers, but on the opposite end, Sub is always going to have some great defenses. He's always going to be able to stop these miners with a 3 or 4 elixir card, and then have a counter push. So as this game goes on, it's going to be interesting to see can Line get the damage without overextending and still being able to defend.
Cannon Cart does barely. I don't know if that set of guards was needed, but better safe than sorry in some cases. 21-32 to just a little bit of chip there on the left-hand side. That's one drill hitting without Goblins getting on tower on the left-hand side for Line, and now Sub goes and switches lanes as we enter double elixir.
Great Valk placement, not going to allow any of the Goblins to reach the tower, and we are going to see an offensive mortar from Line. I was wondering if we were going to see, a constant cycle of offensive mortars, because it's hard to get them on tower. You have the Cannon Cart, you have the Dark Prince that you can place over in the middle, the Golden Knight, even the Magic Archer for offensive pressure with the ability to snipe the mortar plus the tower. So I don't know if we're going to see a lot more of those as the game goes along, or if he's just going to abandon that and go with defensive mortars and play a lot more cautiously.
Let's see if the experience of Line wins out in this one. Of course, we've mentioned Line's No-Tilt World Championship, the solo World Championship of 2020 that he won against Air Surfer in that final. In fact, there's been a lot of talk in the past of Line kind of having Air Surfer's number. We'll see if they do match up later. At the moment, though, Line in the lead. But, of course, very experienced is Line. On top of that, was top 4 at CRL World Finals last year. Won one of our monthly qualifiers as well. And then, of course, 4 seasons in Clash Royale League with teams. 2 with Kingzone Dragon X and 2 with Talon Esports. But here's a nice little lineup from Sub. Protected that Magic Archer with the Golden Knight. Pulls the Archer Queen to the opposite lane. Nice pickup with the guards, but just like that, Sub does have a good amount of damage, and now that Valk out of cycle for that drill.
Solid recognition on Sub's end to not overextend in order to defend that Archer Queen, because Line actually did pop the ability, and so he had no opportunity to use it again. But at the same time, that is a lot of damage to be giving up on the right side. Right there, the Golden Knight will make it to the tower. He does not have the Falcon cycle, and the Archer Queen is not able to get it off the tower. So 1186 to 1301. All of a sudden, Sub is going to take the lead. And that is something that I didn't expect to say in this match, but now it's anybody's game.
And didn't protect the Archer Queen as well. So Line just playing about a half step behind Sub right now. A little bit out of sorts he is at the moment, and does pick up and clean up that drill nicely, but the lead currently with the Brazilian player, 83-11, the personal best for Sub.
And I really like these Magic Archers, Archer Queens at the bridge. This is exactly what you want to be doing. You need to be not allowing the Magic Archer on Sub's end to be getting a lot of offensive pressure, just keeping everything at the bridge. That's why we see the defensive mortars up top. And right here, he needs to get something out. 838 to 837, 1 HP separating the two players. He needs an offensive NATO, otherwise that Magic Archer isn't going to reach the tower.
And Magic Archer does reach the tower, gets a whole lot of damage right there at the end, and there you have it, Sub taking down Line in game number 3. You talked about it before, Josh. Magic Archer NATO, and that's why that drill deck is so popular. You can't win with the drill? Well, guess what? You have the Golden Knight, you have the Magic Archer. So many ways to win, and we just saw one of those right now.
Yeah, and I'm taking I'm trying to collect my thoughts and figure out where that game went wrong for Line. And I don't know if it was because the mortar should have been played differently. Maybe he shouldn't have placed the miner in the back because he was able to activate King Tower, and with that there was a lot of extra help on top of the miners. But yeah, all of a sudden he just stormed back and Line wasn't able to catch up. This is something we're seeing a lot of, just the games getting completely flipped all of a sudden within a span of just 5 to 10 seconds.
Well, let's go ahead and get Juicy J, Jackson Wall, back here on the panel to talk about some of our results here. Our full round 2 has finished. Jackson, let's first talk about what we just saw here, that finish between Line and the nice win there for Sub. Thoughts on how that one ended?
I actually wasn't paying much attention to that one. I just finished watching Sweep versus Sandbox.
Tell us about it.
Sweep took it, just barely. It was a close match. He actually did a reverse sweep, so Sandbox did take the first game, but like I was talking about earlier, I think Sweep was able to get some nice matchups in the last 2 games there, and he was able to take that W.
Well, let's talk about some of the other off-stream results. Of course, we saw Vitor win a 2-1 matchup against Air Surfer. Doom taking down Capgun with a quick 2-0. Doodoo beating trainer Toby 2-1. Luminary over Hubi with a 2-1. And then here's a big one for you. Adriel adds his second one on the day, taking down Bancido 2-0. And then, of course, rounding out those last few in the upper side of things, KK 2-1 over Lord Seb. We just heard Sandbox falling to Sweep there in this last one. And then big news here, Abbas taking the 2-0 win over Surgical Goblin, who will now move into the 1-1. Let's talk first about those upper side of things matchups. Josh, any of those ones that are big shockers to you here?
Big shockers. Let's see. I would have to say Sweep against Sandbox is probably my biggest shock. A lot of the matches made sense. I mean, Sweep is obviously a very talented player, been putting in the work, putting in the hours, so it's not really shocking. Kind of grasping at straws at this point.
Fair enough.
Because yeah, I mean, Sandbox is an incredible player. He would have been in my favorites to go undefeated in today's stage. So I guess that's really why I would have to say I'm kind of shocked at that result.
Let's go take a look at the lower side of things, and Juicy will come to you on this one. We have Gabo with the forfeit win over Greco, and then we have Sub beating Line 2-1, what we just saw. Yuya putting JP now up against the wall. JP now 0-2. Ender has now put one of our top players from last year, Hugo, into the 0-2. So Ender with the 2-0. Morton does get his win over Pedro, so Morton will move into the middle with that 1-1 portion. Pandora beating Takuno. Keith taking Nikoko down, and Osama against King Tico. So Jackson, let's talk about some of those matchups, some of those results here. Some interesting players to now be in the 0-2 section. Of those players who are in the 0-2, we have Greco, Line, JP, Hugo, Pedro, Takuno, Nikoko, and King Tico. Who's the most surprising person for you to see at 0-2 on the chopping block already?
Honestly, IMJP's got to be my most surprised player there. I mean, he's just so solid. He's been around since the beginning, CRL Season 1. And, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see how that Yuya versus JP match went. I do think JP is one of those players, like we talked about earlier. Like, I don't think the nerves are getting to him at this point, but I think he can handle those nerves, but I do think he's starting to feel a bit of stress because you never know what could happen in his next games. He needs to win 3 best-of-3s, dual best-of-3s in a row if he wants to continue on or qualify for the next phase here.
And we do have 4 matchups that are going to be elimination matchups in this next one. Let's talk about those 4 matchups. First, maybe the most surprising elimination matchup, Greco and Line. Loser leaves town. Takuno and King Tico. JP against Hugo, and Nikoko against Pedro. Let's talk about the one that's probably the biggest headline story there. Greco and Line. One of them has to go 3-0 to get a chance at World Finals. One of them goes home immediately. Josh, we'll start with you. Thoughts on that matchup? Greco or Line, who's going home?
This is such a sick question.
I know.
And not one that I even want to answer. I think I would have to lean towards Line being the one that exits. I think Greco is too talented to go 0-3. I don't see that being a reasonable thing to assume. So I have to say Line, but I think you can tell by my voice that this was a very hard question.
Jackson, same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, very difficult. I would have to completely agree with AC here. I mean, you know, both players, amazing. Everyone in this tournament is amazing to make it this far. But I think I've seen Greco around a little bit more when it comes to like these high-level tournaments. And I think that he will probably take that one. What do you think about the Pedro versus Nikoko match, Rich?
I mean, I've seen Nikoko compete a whole lot more than Pedro. Pedro's had some good matches here, but I don't know if they've been as much as good matches as they've been good matchups. I'm keeping an eye on that one very closely. Whereas Nikoko's been a guy who's been on the fringe of high-level competitive for a while. You know, and you see someone who's in that mix for a long time, and you start seeing some consistency there. That gives you strong belief. Anything can happen in a best of 3, obviously, but if I'm going to make a pick there, I'm going to pick Nikoko in that matchup. Let's move on over to the players who are on the top end of things, the players who have gone 2-0 so far. Remember, these are winners make their way on guaranteed to our next round, and this first one is a barn burner. Adriel versus Vitor. Of course, we all know Vitor very well, and for those of you watching at home, maybe if you don't know the history of Adriel, he's been around for maybe longer than he was supposed to be. But this is going to be our featured match of the day. Josh, thoughts on this one?
Yeah. These are 2 incredible players. If I had to choose who I thought was going to advance and just make it onto the next phase without, you know, any worries, any stress whatsoever, I think I have to lean towards Adriel. 2 reasons. The first reason, just because of how talented he is. It seems like everything's coming together for him. He's now able to practice, able to grind. He's got, you know, the right team behind him. And 2, I want to see one of us be correct. You know, in the lower bracket, it's going to be... I saw this and started laughing. It's Hugo versus JP. So my dark horse against Andrew's dark horse to see who's just going to be exiting first is how it is for us. You still have a chance for your player, and I want to see him succeed for that reason.
I did pick Adriel. It wasn't the worst pick in the world, but as I mentioned on 3 Crowns, he kind of had a quiet year this year. A lot of that was distractions by school, but he's been grinding a lot. And also, the inside track here, he's working with Jeebus, who has been the top analyst, the top coach of the year so far. He's the guy working with Muhammad Light in 2022, working with all the top players. He's looking like he's going to have a lot of players at World Finals, and Adriel currently on a nice run run for that one. Jackson, talking about those other matchups where people have a chance to move into the top 3, to move on to the top 16, I mean, Luminary and Sweep, KK and Abbas, and then Doom versus Doodoo. Of those 3 matches, which one do you think is the easiest one to pick who's moving on to our top 16?
I mean, that's a tough question. The easiest pick, I'm just gonna go with what I've been saying this entire time. I'm gonna go with Sweep. I think Sweep's put in the hours. I think he's got the good deck picks, and maybe he doesn't have Jeevis behind him, but I think he's smart with it. I think he could definitely beat Luminary if he can hit those snipes.
We are just a couple of minutes away from round 3 starting. We are in this special mode, of course, with being the Swiss bracket, so it takes a little bit of time to reset for each one, but I see some of you going, hey, let's go ahead and get those games coming. We'll have gameplay coming to you very, very soon here. And let's talk about the middle. We've been on the top end, we've been on the bottom end of things, but a lot more players are right in the middle at that 1-1. We have Morton going up against Bulls Gabo, and then we also have Air Surfer there against Lord Seb, Capgun and Trainer Toby, Bancido against Yuya, but maybe one of the biggest ones, and this is one that maybe will kind of define a lot of how this tournament shakes out. I see Josh's face already. I know you see it. Sandbox and Surgical Goblin. That's a huge one at this stage.
Oh man, Sandbox versus Surgical. Obviously, the crowd's going to be behind Surgical, but I think against anybody else, it would be 90-10, let's see Surgical win. But because everybody knows how talented Sandbox is, the success that he's had in recent tournaments, ladder, global tournaments, whatever it is, he's been successful. So yeah, I mean, I would still say the overwhelming majority are going to be rooting for Surgical. But yeah, that is like the premier matchup, possibly of the day, just because those are 2 guys that everybody wants to see at Worlds. No one, I kind of want to just make a call and have them, mess the bracket up, switch it up a little bit, just because I don't want to see one of them at 2 losses after this round.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tight one. And speaking of people who will go one way or the other, Bulls Gabo up against Morton, and there's a lot of questions here. Juicy, do you think that this is Morton's last run at CRL at a world title, or do you think that as long as he's making content, he's always competitive, and we'll see him as long as there's a CRL?
That's a great question. Like, I think Morton is someone who, he could quit comp whenever he wanted to because of how successful he is with content creation. Man, he streams every single day. He's got 2 YouTube channels, German and English. But like you said, I think he is a competitive person. I think he has a competitive personality, and he doesn't like to be on that sideline watching. So I think that he will be around for as long as CRL is a thing. I think Morton will be there. Whether or not he can beat Gabo is a different story. I think he can, but it could go either way. I mean, he is 1-1, so if he does lose, he still has another life left.
And for those of you, of course, who are looking to follow along with who has 1 life, who has no lives, go ahead and open up this. What's this? Oh yeah, that's the Clash Royale app. Let me go ahead and give you guys, there, now it's in focus. That's the Clash Royale app, and of course you can see that CRL logo right, is it right there? Where is it? Oh, it's on the other side. CRL logo right there. Click that, and yeah, then you can go ahead. You can see the 0-1 on that channel. All right. On that note, I'm out of here. Use the tournament hub, and Jackson and Josh, take it away. Okay,
so I have this written. Oh, okay. I'll discuss this afterwards. Anyways, we're gonna go into Adriel versus Vitor 75. This is going to be game 1. We are gonna be able to see all of the matches right here. And game 1, Adriel is using my favorite deck in the meta right now, the Royal Hogs Giant Skeleton Mirror. Vitor is going to be going with what feels kind of like a classic version, just the deck that used to be extremely popular. Now it's kind of fallen out of the favor in this meta.
Yeah, Pig's mirror matchup here. I think that the mirror being super good in this match or meta is going to kind of take a little bit of a edge here. The other thing is Adriel can get like King Tower activations with his Fishman, but with the tower trade already, once again, I think I'm going to put this even further in Adriel's favor because, you know, Vitor using control cycle deck, like that's not something you want to be doing is tower trading. And now Adriel's going to be able to basically stack up these lanes with big like giant skeletons, maybe even mirror giant skeletons. And it's going to be difficult for Vitor to win it from this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Adriel kind of started off the match with a little bit of a mistake trying to activate the King Tower, but obviously when both Crown Towers are gone, both King Towers finally get activated. So this match, 28-90 to 28-25, and this is actually something that I kind of love, and at the same time wasn't very successful on the first attempt. But you're absolutely correct. Once you're in this position for Adriel, you kind of just stack giant skeletons. And you just build your pushes. So I love that he attempted to get an Archer Queen snipe in the pocket. Because I don't know what he's supposed to do now that it's a 2-tower game.
Yeah, all Vitor can really do is try and sneak in those Archer Queens, maybe go for some Earthquake cycle as we see here. But like going for pigs, like maybe can get some chip, but it's just going to add to Adriel's push as he stacks up this lane. And here we have pigs, 2 giant skellies, a ghost, a fisherman. Roll delivery log comes down, that cleans up quite a bit, but here comes the mirror pigs as well. And how do you stop this?
You just can't. We are going to see the delivery plus the log plus the okay, there we go. We do see the cannon as well. King Tower all the way down to 608. The only thing you can look at if you're Vitor, your opponent does not have the correct spells to be able to finish off this game. But with the fisherman, with the giant skeleton, I think we're just going to kind of see him stack up again. This is a lot of damage, though, getting the tower all the way down to 1354. But, I mean, Adriel just needs one more push. And I think he's too talented of a player to allow Vitor to have any surprises at this point.
Absolutely. I can see, like, the only reason I see Vitor winning this game is if Adriel does make a big mistake. And like you said, I just don't think that's happening. As we can see here, Adriel actually predicting the pigs in the pocket with a mirror ghost, cleaned that up quite nicely. Now there's another huge counter push coming in.
Yeah, so I don't think that mirror is in cycle, so I think this is just one Royal Hogs push, and I don't think anything else is going to follow with it, and that's what is going to happen. Clean defense right there. 984, triple elixir now underway. 497, the King Tower for Adriel. And Adriel was able to predict. We do see him just place these troops over the middle. He does not want to allow for a Royal Hogs push to finish him off. I mean, both players are playing this exactly correctly. We need to see a little bit more offensive pressure from Adriel, though.
Yeah, I would say that Vitor is like playing this extremely well all of a sudden. Like he's being very patient, letting Adriel's prediction in the middle there just not really work out, and all of a sudden he's gonna win this game.
Wow, Vitor comes storming back, able to take the victory. I mean, it really comes down to Adriel had no pressure whatsoever. Vitor was able to consistently get damage. Royal Hogs over the middle, getting the earthquake damage, plus the log, and just great deliveries on defense. Archer Queen getting a ton of value. And yeah, this is something that happens all the time. The commentators, the casters, talking for a minute and a half about why it's impossible to come back. And Vitor proves us all wrong. Congratulations to him. Unfortunate for our thoughts.
I mean, I think the biggest thing there is Adriel decided to start mirroring his ghosts. If he would have continued to mirror his pigs in offense, there's no way that he would have not been able to take one of those towers. But I think just a bit of a mistake from Adriel, just focusing too much on defense as Vitor was playing patiently, earthquake cycling, and getting those pigs in the pocket there. But what do you think about this matchup? We have a drill bridge spam versus a RG Skelly King, it looks like.
I think this matchup, okay, it's not going to be as dangerous as I was expecting at the beginning, but with only 3 elixir, Adriel does not have the proper responses. This is going to be towered down to 1300, 1100, 1168, and just a minute into the game. So all the momentum for Vitor. And I think back to your previous point with the mirrored ghost, I think that's exactly it. If we had seen just Royal Hogs in the pocket and the Royal Hogs at the bridge, I don't think he's protecting either tower. I think, honestly, one of the things that could have kind of caught up to him was the fact that the King Tower was lower, and it kind of made him want to go for the King Tower. And if he had continued to go with the Crown Tower, I think it would have had a different result.
Absolutely. Interesting to see Vitor be so aggressive in the single elixir here with RG. Adriel looking like he's going to sack this right side tower. And maybe go for a tower trade with a big Executioner Gold Knight drilled like NATO push here. See if Vitor can defend this or not.
Yeah, I love that he places the Fisherman all the way off to the side. It's going to be able to yank the Golden Knight, yank the Executioner. Bar Barrel played absolutely perfectly. Dark Prince is going to get one shot, and that's going to be all. And then look at the King Tower damage as well.
I was going to say.
Yeah, Tower down to triple digits. And this could be the same thing as last time. One player going for the King Tower, but that's not going to be the case. Adriel giving up in game number 2.
And that's going to be the best of 3 there.
Yes.
I can.
Okay, and there we go. Match is going to be over entirely. I'm going to take a look. I would be shocked to see if any of the other matches have already finished. But no, there we go. Greco, okay, listen to this. Greco actually beat Line 2-0. So a forfeit loss in set number 2. I don't know what happened with that. Maybe just had to collect his thoughts, figure it out. And he figured it out. Line losing 0-2. And Line is going to be one of our first players out, as well as Pedro TM. Nikoko was able to win his set as well.
Andrew was right about that one. I'd be interested to see how the Surge matchup is going.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the best ones. And here we go. This is going to be Hugo versus JP. 2 of our players that we wanted to see. This is going to be game number 2. Hugo currently in the lead, but with 20 seconds left, all the towers remain fairly undamaged. No fireball cycles on the towers, no damage whatsoever. Fireball going to go on top of the troop instead of the tower, and that's going to be the exact correct play. Left side down to 2039. JP is going to be able to take game number 2.
Fascinating RG mirror matchup there. Looks like both players, like you said, just having some really good defense there, but looks like Hugo kind of overextending on offense at the end there, really trying to make something happen. Good defense from JP, and then that counter push was kind of unstoppable at that point. Now we're heading into game 3 here. Looks like the first match we saw from these players were a mortar mirror matchup, so what are we going to see in the last one? Maybe some drill?
Yeah, I will say that whatever happens in game 3, I'm going to predict that both players are running it, and that would just be a joy to watch for somebody who likes those kind of connections, as myself, because it's just fun when I see both players running the exact same thing. But we're already seeing a Bandit from Hugo. Looks like that's not going to be the case. With Bandit, I was going to say with Bandit, is there anything besides that Drill Cycle Inferno Tower deck? But it looks like Hugo's going to go out to MK, probably Ram Rider Lightning in game number 3.
Yeah, looking like an MK Ram Rider Lightning versus JP. Maybe that Drill Bridge Spam with the Giant Skelly, though, this time. And I think the Giant Skelly Drill Bridge Spam is just having a bit of an edge here. The Mega Knight and the Ram Rider did get buffed last month. But I think the Giant Skelly and everything is just so solid on defense. It's really going to be about whoever's going to have like better defenses and counter pushes, I think.
And there we go. We do see the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Always a fan of the Mini P.E.K.K.A. in these Mega Knight variants, just because you don't have the DPS. Otherwise, we do see the Snowball. Don't know if that was necessary, but also just trying to reset, trying to make it to double Elixir. You know when you are the Mega Knight player, I mean, sometimes you can get off brilliant, positive Elixir trades that allow you to go in on offense, but usually you're waiting for that double Elixir, that triple Elixir, to finally get that Ram Rider to the tower and get the damage that you're actually looking for.
Yeah, more of a beatdown deck, really, with the Mega Knight Lightning. JP just stacking everything in his lane, the single Elixir, and this is kind of what I was talking about. The Mega Knight versus Giant Skelly kind of tank matchup there. I think the Giant Skelly kind of wins every time, especially when you have that cannon cart backing your tank. Insane DPS. And the Gold Knight's going to make it to the tower here while Hugo just doesn't have much Elixir. Musketeer is going to come down at the last moment to try and prevent some damage. But now that means JP's going to be up quite a bit of Elixir, and he goes for the drill to try and capitalize here.
Yeah, plays the drill just a little bit too fast. Musketeer is going to be able to help out on top of the drill. Tower down to 1905. JP's towers remain untouched at this point. And that's right. I mean, JP is just completely dominating this game. We've seen this deck have, you know, less success as the game goes along, but that's only when the giant skeleton really can't get the value you're looking for. Currently in this matchup, it looks like that's really not going to be the case. And right now, another great Golden Knight. And at the beginning of today, I was saying we're seeing a lot of mistakes from the Golden Knight, not getting the dashes that we're looking for. These past few games, I don't know if it's because players were nervous or they hadn't fully warmed up or, you know, it was too early and they weren't prepared or what it was. But now we're seeing the Golden Knights always get the dashes they're looking for.
Yeah, the Golden Knights, very unpredictable card. I think as this game goes on, we're going to see some more lightnings. There you go, Hugo going for the lightning, not able to hit the tower though. And like you said, JP's deck, like, it might perform a little bit worse as it gets on to later parts of the game, just because you don't have a big spell to like finish off those towers. But what he will be able to do is build up giant skelly pushes, and Hugo not having like an area spell instead of lightning that can only hit 3 things, it could be difficult to, you know, deal with just insanely large pushes like that.
And right there, I absolutely love the play from both players. I think Hugo kind of recognized that this might not be his matchup, and so he kind of allowed for his right tower to get very low. This is going to be a very dangerous push, and he's kind of just going out with the all-out assault. He wants to win the game here and now, and he doesn't want to win it another way. Snowball plus Mini P.E.K.K.A plus Ramrunner. This could be game over right here.
Mini P.E.K.K.A MVP, like, getting so much value. I think the biggest mistake there is that JP did not use his Golden Knight ability on the last Golden Knight there, and it made it so that the Mini P.E.K.K.A was not able to get absorbed on one of those shots, and he was just constantly forced to like keep wasting elixir, spending, and the Mini P.E.K.K.A just kept taking everything out.
Yeah, I think that might be my play of the day so far, just allowing for the right side to get damaged, gets the tower down to 13, 15, whatever it was, 100 HP, and then just going all out. I feel like we don't see that enough, you know, whether it's single elixir, double elixir, those Mega Knight decks, those bridge spam decks with a lot of 4 or 5 elixir cards, those are the kind of decks you want to do it with. And so I think that was just a brilliant opportunity. Not something that we see all that often, and he was able to pull it off, so just a tremendous game right there. And it sounds like Rich is going to be back. So yeah, let's have Rich back on camera.
Hey everybody, man, what a fun round of matches. You guys have to see some great stuff here, but we do also have our first 4 eliminated players. And so we have to say goodbye to a few people, including the matchup that you just watched. Hugo stays alive. I am JP now out of the competition. So that's, I see some sadness here on the part of you guys. Nikoko eliminates Pedro, who's out. King Tico goes down, and quite shockingly, 0-3 on the day. Line eliminated here by Greco. So that's Line gone from the competition. But on the flip side, let's go to the happy side of things, guys, because we do have 4 players who have guaranteed themselves a place in our top 16 in next weekend. We started off seeing Vitor win over Adriel, who's still in the competition, but Vitor 3-0 all the way through. Your boy, Juicy J, sweeping his way on through, 3-0, sweep through to the top 16 with 3 matches in a row. KK, for those of you who love one of the most popular long-standing players out of Japan, KK now goes through with a 2-0, and in a matchup of teammates, Dudu, who's a young, less experienced player. I believe he's only 17 years old, but Dudu now goes 3-0, and he is through to our top 16. So some big-time results there in those in the top and bottom side of our brackets. Josh, we'll start on your side. Vitor through, KK through, Dudu through. Man, those are some names to jump on in. But the big one here being Sweep. I know that Sweep was Jackson's pick, but I'll flip things on the other side for him in a minute. Thoughts on Sweep going through after kind of being out for so long?
You didn't. Okay, so one thing is, it's amazing to see a content creator do well, because it's right in front of you. It proves that you know, raw talent is always going to take you far, but dedication and, you know, just honing your craft is always going to just do that much better. And so it's always just brilliant to see somebody who puts in the work, puts in the hours, especially when it's a streamer. When it's a YouTuber, you know, I don't have that affiliation with them, because as someone who used to stream, I know how difficult it can be. You're focusing on the game, you're talking to people, you're balancing all sorts of topics, and so it just makes you work that much harder. And apparently it gave him that competitive edge where he was able to go 3-0 today.
A nice 3-0, and I'm sure, Jackson, you're excited about that one. Let's talk about those eliminated players, though. Line out, Tico out, JP out, and Pedro out. I'm going to guess that Line is the most shocking one for you of those four?
Yeah, I would have to go with that. I mean, we talked about it a bit. I am shocked that he's out, but I'm not shocked that Greco was able to beat him.
A very important win for Greco after the forfeit loss in his previous round. So Greco staying alive with on 1-2. And those are some of our chopping block players: Greco, Takuno, Hugo, and Nikoko. But remember, we have that big chunk of 1-1s in the middle. And there's some important results here, because some of those players now are 1 win away from moving on to our next stage, and some players are 1 win away from being eliminated. So let's go through some of those results. Osama does move up to 2-1 with a win over Kafir Hubi. Morton also moves to 2-1 with a very nice sweep over Bulls Gabo. Ender taking down Sub 2-1. Air Surfer getting into that 2-1 side against Lord Seb. Capgun falls to trainer Toby, who will stay on the upper side of things. Yuya now 2-1. Bancido dropping down to the chopping block side. Sandbox taking down Surgical Goblin. So Sandbox 1 win away from moving on. Surge 1 loss away. Has to win his next 2 to stay in the World Finals hunt. And then finally Pandora with the 2-0 win over Keith. So let's talk about one of the big ones here, and that's going to be Surgical Goblin now with his back against the wall. He's obviously been here before. The run of Team Liquid in 2019 to win the Western Championship in that first season after starting off with a horrific beginning. That's a legendary run. We know Sorge can do it. Josh, of all those people who are on that bottom side here, right? Hubi, Gabo, Sub, Lord Seb, Capgun, Bancido, and Keith. Who's the opponent that actually know his opponent, never mind. Surge has Gabo, Bulls Gabo up next. Thoughts on that matchup for the former world champion?
I think that's probably going to be one of his better matchups, you know, just opportunities for him to succeed. I think for someone like Surgical, he wants to be going up against somebody with less experience. And I think if he's going up against Hugo or Capgun or Keith or obviously Greco, those are going to be the players that have momentum with them, but also have competitive experience, so they're not as worried about the moment. When it comes to players that Surgical wants to see, Gabo is probably one of those. At the same time, with all these players, he's so talented, and we've seen a lot of great things out of him, that it still is going to be quite the challenge for him.
Going to be quite the challenge indeed. Talking about our other elimination matches right now, Juicy. Chief Keef, or now Humble Keef against Takuno. Nikoko against Greco is an elimination match as well. We talked about Surgical Goblin and Gabo, obviously. Capgun and Lord Seb is another one of those that's on the elimination side of things. And I believe we have one more there. No, those are our 4 elimination matches at the moment. So let's talk about some of those elimination matchups. Who's staying on? Who's going home?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one for me is Greco versus Nikoko. I mean, both really experienced players. I feel like Greco is kind of feeling good after his last match that he just won versus Line. It's a big win. I think that I think that I could see that Nikoko getting eliminated here potentially.
And I was a little bit hasty there. Capgun versus Lord Seb is also an elimination match, as well as Hugo versus Sub. Thank you to the tournament hub, where I was able to get some of that information a little bit clarified. So if you haven't gone yet, if you need more information, open up your game where you see the CRL logo on the left-hand side of the screen near the top. Click that, and you can get all your information. Now, if you're having trouble finding it, click, instead of the home tab, go to the competition tab. In fact, I'll show you the tournament hub right here on my iPad. There you go. That's where I'm watching some stuff. So you can see there, let me get that right there. Boom, you see the home tab there on the far left. Next to that's the competition tab, and we are in stage 4, and you can click all the way over to round 4 where we currently are, and you can see right there is all the information you might need in round 4. Who's qualified, who's 2-1, who's 1-2, who's eliminated, all that information right there in the app. And that also lets you watch the game that you want to watch. So if we're not covering your favorite player, your best friend, go ahead and you can find that match right there. If they're your best friend, you probably have their friend link already, let's be real. But all that information is right there for you. Sweep, Dudu, Vitor, and KK already through. Line, Pedro, King Tico, and JP already out. Let's go ahead and as we're waiting for our next round of matches, let's talk about the upper bracket matchups, and maybe the biggest one on that upper bracket. Winner guarantees a spot in the top 16. Morton versus Yuya Juicy J. That is a brilliant matchup. Are you taking the pride of Germany there, or are you going with Yuya in this matchup?
I gotta take Morton only for one reason. I called it like, I don't know, a month ago or so. There's some discussion on Twitter about who would win the World Finals because of how much inexperience there is. And I said that I think that Morton will win the World Finals. So I'm going to take him just because of that prediction I made a while ago. I got to stick with it, you know?
Well, we'll see if he can add that all-important 1 to his record. Josh, next one up in the winners bracket side. Winner goes on. It's your boy Air Surfer against Adriel. Does Adriel recover from what was a shaky round 3 performance, or is it Air Surfer who takes the cake and stays in the mix?
I think whenever your opponent has a set where he doesn't perform his best, it's kind of your set to lose. So I would definitely say the momentum, I'd say the match is in favor for Air Surfer. You know, from my experience, from pros that I've talked to, from pros that I've worked with, it does affect your mentality, but it also affects your deck choices. You're not thinking as far ahead. You're not thinking, oh, well, my opponent would run this if I ran that. It's more thinking, okay, I need to get a win. I'm going to win with this deck. But your opponent kind of knows that sometimes. They know you want to go to that Giant Skeleton Mirror Royal Helix deck. They know you want to go to the Minor Poison deck if you're on Air Surfer's side. So I think a lot of the thought process kind of gets clouded. And so I would say the Air Surfer has the advantage.
Well, we'll see if he gets that one here in a couple of minutes. We're getting ready for our next round here in just a couple of moments as we're getting everything set up. And actually, we got it. So let's go ahead and jump right in to our featured matchup here. It is an absolute banger. Morton versus Yuya. Let's go.
All right, we got Yuya versus Morton, like you said. Looks like a minor mortar maybe from Yuya. Morton looking like he's using Lava Hound, actually. Maybe,
and there you go.
Maybe, you know, from his friend. If you don't know, one of his big friends is Carl the Legend, another German streamer. Big Lava Hound, Mighty Miner one trick. And looks like he's going to take a page out of his book. Queen ability from Yuya. Going to go ahead and take out most of this Lava Hounds. I'm still trying to figure out what Yuya's using. What is this?
Well, looks like just maybe some sort of interesting minor control variation. So
yeah,
we'll see if he has maybe a secondary win condition behind it. Haven't seen a building yet, which is going to be interesting if he is here against this up against this Lava Loon deck. And assuming no building, now that we have seen nothing pull that balloon, so who knows what's going on? And it is. I guess he was just too low on elixir for it.
That's interesting. I agree with what you're saying. I do think Mortar on defense versus that Loon could have been interesting. Looks like he's going to decide to maybe take one Loon hit. Loon not doing as much damage for each hit as it used to, and kind of delegating all of his elixir towards his counter push, and it is going to work out. Like, he's getting quite a bit of damage here.
Yeah, that is a really great call, and you know, choosing to eat a little bit of damage, set up, and get some protection in front for the Mortar, just like that. What looked like a nice early lead for Morton has turned into a huge counter for Yuya, and now choosing to go Loon with a little bit of push behind it, And here we go. Now it's the mortar for the counter and picked up by the tombstone instead.
Delivery comes down. I think the biggest thing in this matchup for Morton is the delivery plus Ice Spirit combo does not take out Skeleton Dragons. And with the Earthquake being the big spell for Yuya, I think if Morton, now that it is double elixir, can build up a big enough push, he might be able to break through. But if Yuya can hold on with maybe using that 3-card cycle from the Archer Queen to get down a bunch of different Spear Goblins and Mortars on the defense, it is possible. Here's the big push for Morton, though.
It's a big one. Miner onto that right-hand tower. Morton just choosing to ignore it and try to go all in on the tower here. Balloon does hit once, and that is going to be tower down. Just like that, we are now on a 2-tower game. How does this math change now that we're playing same lane with Morton's Lava Hound against this Mortar Miner deck?
I think the biggest thing there for Yuya is that he really wanted to defend that. And we saw it. He tried everything. He tried to get the second roll delivery down. Now that we're in a situation where Morton's got the tower down and we're heading into overtime where like triple elixir will become a problem, I think Morton's looking really good. Not to mention this Mighty Miner. Going for the Mighty Miner ops lane, waiting for it to be on that tower tile, and then going directly onto the tower could be huge, forcing out a lot of elixir.
What a big play there. The spears go to pick up and gets a lot of damage, and as you said, forces out a lot of elixir, and now Morton lavas up one more time. Mortar high, Valk in the pocket to predict the tombstone.
Nice play, but is it enough? Morton defends pretty well. This mortar, it will get a couple shots off, but it will fall very soon. And Morton's going to be probably going for another balloon and another Mighty Miner in this opposite lane to apply even more pressure.
Fireball in, does get the Archer Queen a little bit reset here. Zap, and the same trick does not work twice for Morton. Mighty Miner does not do much damage. Doesn't matter, though, as there is a lot of damage in already. EQ taking care of the tombstone. Mortar trying to connect, and it will get at least 1 or 2 shots here. Does get 1 connection, 35 seconds left. Can Yuya do enough damage in this short time to recover from this deficit?
I just don't think so, especially with this mortar placement. I'm pretty sure this tower is going to be going down right about now. Oh, Balloon. He does cycle back to another mortar somehow.
Well, that's that 3-card cycle and triple elixir. Balloon in the pocket now. Can a mortar get there in time to save it? Not going to happen. Fireball. No, the mortar does get there in time. But that's going to be it either way. GG. Well played. Morton taking the game.
Good game. Well played from both players there. I think, that match could have gone a lot differently if Yuya had a big spell like a Fireball or a Poison instead of that Earthquake. But Earthquake only hitting ground units, just not enough. Especially with Arch Queen being a champion, not able to cycle back to another one of her to help out on the defense. So overall, though, Morton played really well to be able to get that tower trade and abuse that Mighty Miner ability to attack the ops lane tower there at the end.
Update for those of you who are not following along other matches. In Adriel versus Air Surfer, winner will qualify to the next round. Air Surfer up 1-0 in gameplay and up right now by about 1100 HP as they are 15 seconds away from sudden death overtime. So Air Surfer may be just couple minutes away from qualifying for our next round.
Giant Skelly RG versus Giant Skelly Loon from Yuya. This Hunter is doing quite a job, getting a lot of value, not going to get hit by that Giant Skelly Bomb either. And here comes a counter push, huge counter push. Giant Skelly RG Hunter. Stormy comes down, does Morton have something? He just gets enough elixir for the log now, he tries to go for it. But you guys got that bomb tower that's going to help clean everything else up. So overall, Morton had a nice counter push. He says, wow, maybe he was expecting to get more damage for how much elixir he spent there. But once again, just that Skarmy getting so much value before the log was able to come down.
Yeah, just a half step late on that log here. And, maybe he's also saying wow for the deck because who expect to be against Giant Skelly Loon Bomb Tower right now? This is kind of an out there choice.
And then with Skarmy in it as well, like who do think Skarmy's be in this? More often we see Skarmy paired with maybe a Skeleton King to see that ability kind of synergy, filling up the Skelly King ability. Giant Skelly Skarmy is a little bit different, and a mirror as well. Mirror Giant Skelly in the back here. I really like that play. Giant Skelly just so valuable Queen's going to do her best to try and take this out, but this Giant Skelly is going to block up this lane. And Morton's got a Giant Skelly of his own. We'll see if it is enough to kind of stall at the bridge here and win this bridge battle.
And what a great use of the ability of the Archer Queen to retarget everything onto the Giant Skeleton rather than the Archer Queen, and she stays alive for that defense. So able to hold on a little bit longer, and you see now Yuya taking a moment. So, hey, Mirror, Mother Witch, she finds her way all over the place. And now this is a big-time push. I don't know what Morton has for this Loon here, as the Hunter's not targeting the balloon, the E-Spirit to slow down. Does the Hunter stop the connection? No, it doesn't. The Hunter goes down, and that Loon runs absolutely wild. 4:30 remaining, and Yuya has suddenly taken firm control of this match as we go into our final 20 seconds.
Yeah, that Hunter was so close to getting that second shot off and taking out that balloon, but the Giant Skelly Bomb just barely able to be in range and take out the Hunter. I really like the Fisherman to pull this out of range to make sure the tower is going to be helping out versus balloon. Can he stop the death damage? He can. It looks like that will not hit. Huge counter push from Morton. He needs to go all in right now if he wants to try and take control back of this game.
The good news for Morton is not a lot of direct tower damage here. Mirror arrows plus double mirrored arrows, not going to do it right now. So he needs, if he can play some strong defense and not let too much on tower, he can recover here.
Absolutely, and especially forcing out Yuya to use those arrows defensively. Yuya really only needs just 3 arrows if you count like arrows, mirrored arrows, and another arrows, but Morton's doing everything in his power to apply as much pressure as humanly possible to make sure that that will never happen.
Mirrored Skarmy will not stop that first Royal Giant shot, does stop the second. Does that pig get on? And it does get one very, very important hit. That may be the nail in the coffin. I don't think he can stop this balloon.
Yeah, balloon's coming in. The Queen ability does her best. The arrows come down, but the death damage is there. Death damage not even needed. Balloon's going to drop that bomb and take that tower. And all of a sudden, we're 1-1 in the best of 3 here. Anything could happen this last match.
Anything can happen. Indeed, some updates in other matches. Air Surfer wins his matchup against Adriel 2-0, so Air Surfer has gone through and qualified. Hugo also just picked up a dub off stream as well, so Hugo keeping his dreams alive with a win over Sub to stay in that hunt for World Finals.
Minor from Morton going back to, some quicker cycle things, stuff that he's really comfortable with. Really consistent damage as well. Yuya with the Ghost and some Skeletons. Not really sure what that could be. Maybe a quick cycle Bridge Bam or a quick cycle Drill deck. Or an RG deck. Quick cycle RG deck.
Fishburne always feels like it's RG, but of course we just saw an absolute mayhem of a deck out of Yuya. You gotta wonder what that does for Morton's deck picking as they're trying to figure out which of my 2 remaining decks do I use after being against Skarmy, Mirror, Mother Witch. Now, one big one is he knows he doesn't have to worry about Mother Witch against these bats. So that's a nice bit of knowledge here from Morton as he goes into game number 3.
Absolutely. Looks like Morton is going to be picking this Minor Mortar Skelly King deck. Not using Skarmy, but guards instead. I really like that choice. I feel like Skarmy is one of those cards where, sometimes it gets insurmountable amounts of value, and then other times it gets none if your opponent has like a zap or something like this. Using the guards, once again, going to be super value against Yuya's log. We talked about this earlier in RG matchup, but Yuya with his RG going to be pretty difficult to break through the guards since you need the log plus E-Spirit to combo to take it out, and then Morton can always rely on those bats after the E-Spirit comes out. So that's kind of the mechanic that we're looking at once again here. But as we saw in that last match, the Miner was doing really well in single elixir, and all of a sudden the RG was able to make a big comeback with some really big RG lightning pushes. Obviously in this situation, you are not having the giant skeleton since he already used it previously. Maybe not able to build up as big of pushes. We'll see how that changes the outcome here.
Another update for you watching along at home. Surgical Goblin does knock out Gabo, so Surge moves in to that 2-2 range. He'll be staying alive in his World Finals hunt. We might be seeing a critical matchup for him in our next round. We'll see.
Absolutely. That'll be interesting to see who his opponent is. Let's see. Mortar, Muskie, and Skelly King down. Lightning does take care of the Muskie, Bass getting a lot of value here. Snowball's going to slow this RG down, and no connection other than the lightning for Yuya. Morton playing really well. If he can keep this up, defend well, you know, cycle miners throughout the match, keep chipping away, he will win. What Yuya needs to do is he needs to keep getting some nice lightnings down on those musketeers. Maybe try and connect with some E-Spear onto some bats. Looks like he goes for the hunter here. Maybe trying to be unpredictable. Morton does not have the log to predict any sort of play like that, but RG does get a connection, and all of a sudden Yuya has the damage lead here.
Here we go, sudden death overtime, and Morton goes to the number 3 spot. The double drop from Yuya doesn't pick up the miner, so Morton does take the lead back with a very, very clutch placement. Of your 3 primary placements, the least popular, but paying off there for Morton with 90 seconds left.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think if Morton can have some really solid defense and prevent lightning value, the miner poison should get more damage overall versus just lightning damage. But that's if he can defend well enough to not let the RGs connect. Kind of missing a snowball here, not hitting the RG, and all of a sudden there's 2 RGs on the map. Those guards got evaporated by that hunter. High mortar outside of lightning radius here. Some bats as well. And it's going to hit triple elixir right now. So that might be what Morton needs to ensure a good defense here. But the Fisherman actually connects somehow.
Oh, boy. And a huge, huge secondary shot there from the Hunter as well. 1192 to 1174. Miner in, Snowball for the prediction, but instead Fisherman goes for the pull. 10:58, 44 seconds left.
40 seconds left. Triple elixir. The miners and the poisons are going to start flying, whereas Yuya is trying to build up this big push in the back, maybe get a double RGs down. Lightning is chipping away quite a bit, but here comes the poison from Morton. Morton's got a bit of a damage lead right now, and if he can hold on to it for the next 23 seconds, he should be able to win. But a really nice catch from Yuya, but the pre-snowball is going to push that Fisherman off, allow the miner to get some connections.
Beautiful, beautiful play going into the Fisherman to not allow a pull here, and now 428. Can Morton hold off this Royal Giant? Miner going to town. The Royal Giant gets stopped by the mortar. Lightning trying to make enough room. Can it do it? Does not hit. Morton gets the GG, the well played, and a huge win. Morton moves on to our top 16.
That RG was so close to connecting, Ridge. So close.
What a day it's been so far, and we're not done yet. But the big news right there, Morton will be moving on to our top 16. And that top 16, remember, top 10 go to World Finals. So that's such, I mean, his chances just went through the roof. Huge win there for Morton. And I'm personally very excited about that one. GG, well played. What a matchup, Juicy.
Yeah, that was insane. I think Morton played really well. Like I said, I think that, you know, Morton just might be the world champion this year. You never know. He was my pick. I'm also happy to see him. I think he's a fan favorite as well, so I'm sure there's a lot of people excited about that win.
Let's go ahead and get Joshua AC Sharon back on screen here. Josh, this was a wild one. Morton pulling that one out very tight in game number 3. Not the only tight finish, though. A lot of close ones, and of course, a big one for you is Air Surfer moving on to our top 16.
Absolutely. Congratulations to Morton, Air Surfer, Pandora, and Doom. Those are going to be our 4 players. Wait a second. Did I get that wrong? It's 6 players, correct? Okay,
6
so
players.
Also Ender and Luminary. Those are going to be our 6 players that have advanced to the next stage. But, yeah, certainly blessed to not cast that match so that I was able to just sit back and watch, because that was absolutely a fantastic set played by both players.
Well, I'm going to move my tournament hub a little bit closer here so I can see all the results. Morton 2-1 over Yuya. Ender with the 2-0 over Trainer Toby, so Ender makes it to our top 16 as well. Doom taking down Osama. Osama, of course, still alive, but Doom now going to move on to our top 16. We'll see him next weekend. Luminary with the win over Abbas. Adriel falls to Air Surfer, so Air Surfer will be qualified for next weekend. And Pandora beating Sandbox. So those 6 players all moving on to our top 16. On the bottom side of it, who stayed alive and who went home? Humble Keef stays alive, sending home to Kuno. Kafrahubi stays in. Bancito exits a little earlier than some might have expected. Surgical Goblin with the big 2-0, so he will have a win or you're in or you're out matchup, and that's all of our next matchups, by the way. They're all for 2-2, win you're in, lose you're out matchups. Hugo takes down Sub, Capgun with the win over Lord Seb, and a tough one here, Greco falling to Nikoko. So Greco is out, Nikoko still in the running for World Finals.
Yeah, that's not something I expected right there. Greco getting beat by Nikoko. It'll be interesting to see Nikoko 2-2 now. Let's see, who's Nikoko going to be playing against, Kafe or Hubi for the make or break match? Who do you think is going to win there?
Man, I got to go with Nikoko on that one. I think he's going to go ahead and take the win. I picked him earlier. I'll pick him again today. That's going to be a fun one. I mean, there's some interesting matchups here. Trainer Toby against Yuya. And I think we actually, for this round, I think that we're going to see a lot of these matches. I think we're staggering them. I'll double check with that one.
Yeah, I think all of them.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
That's great. We're going to get to see, I just got word from the production booth, we are definitely seeing every 2-2 match. So here's the lineup for what we're going to be seeing. Not the order, but the lineup. Trainer Toby against Yuya. Hugo against Adriel. Keef against Surgical Goblin. Hubi against Nikoko, Capgun against Osama, and Abbas against Sandbox. So that is a heck of a lineup. Every single one of those, winner moves on, and loser's journey ends here today.
I'm excited to watch those matches. That's going to be really fun, I think. Like all of them.
Okay. I want to throw out a stat to both of you guys.
Okay.
Because searching through the matchups, wanted to see what really stuck out to me. So 3 players, Morton, Pandora, and Ender G, lost in round number 1 and were able to go 3-0 from then on. So just a great bounce back from all 3 of those players.
I mean, that's a really important, really phenomenal recovery. You know, I'm curious, who are the players who someone mathematically I think had to go 0-2 and is back in contention right now? I need to figure out who the heck that was. Might have been, was it Nikoko? I think Nikoko might have been one of those guys who went 0-2 and now has a chance to go on a 3. Yeah, lost to Trainer Toby in round number 1, lost to Keith in round 2. Hugo and Nikoko, both of those could make the full reverse run into our top 16. That'd be crazy.
Well,
that is crazy.
And now on the flip side, you have to look at the 2 players that started out undefeated and are now 2-2. I'm fairly certain Adriel is one of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to figure out who the second player would be. Could it be Sandbox? No, it's not Sandbox.
No, Surge lost in round number 2. I'm trying to figure out who it is as well. Because someone also went, you're right, someone did go. Sandbox did not go 2-0 to start because he lost a sweep in round 2. Let's see, Doodoo is all the way through. Not Hubi. You know, I'm having trouble figuring out who this is. Oh, you know what?
Keith.
It's Abbas. Abbas went 2-0. He beat Hugo and Surgical Goblin, and now here he is back against Sandbox. And man, you win against Hugo and Surgical Goblin. You're 1 win away from the next round, and then you end up taking 2 L's, and now you got to face Sandbox for your make or break matchup. That's a brutal journey for Abbas.
Yeah, the emotions, he had to be running so high, and probably not low at this point. Like, he still probably has to feel very good about himself and what he's done today. But certainly has to be a little bit wary.
Our first matchup is going to be Keef and Surgical Goblin, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm wondering if there's a player here on this list whose not whose name is maybe updated here, because I'm seeing some chatter in the Twitch chat, and I'm wondering. No, that's not right. Well, maybe the Twitch chat was totally off on this one. Never mind. Oh no, Kafir Hubi is Faust. It's Faust.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Oh, I saw that in the chat, and I was like, why does everyone keep talking about Faust? Because his Royale API account doesn't list that he was also known as Faust previously. But then it links. Thank you, Royale API, for linking the Twitter as well. I clicked the Twitter, and it's Faust. So, that explains a whole lot. So that's actually a huge one. Does that change anyone's opinions of this matchup here at the end. Nikoko, I almost have to switch now.
Yeah.
It's Faust, dude. This is, and for those of you who don't know, there was a long time where Faust was thought to be the next great player out of Germany. People are looking at this guy as the guy who was going to carry the torch for Germany and become one of the greats. And maybe it's a little bit of distraction or commitment or whatever it is. For some reason, that promise has never paid all the way off, but he still is a top-tier player.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. I think Faust could beat Nikoko. I mean, Nikoko does have that momentum, though. Like we talked about, he did lose the first 2 rounds, and now he's come back, and he's back to 2-2, and he just needs one more win. I mean, that's a lot of momentum. I definitely can see him winning still, even though now we know that extra information, you know.
And I do see Sweep, who has qualified for next weekend in our Twitch chat. Congratulations, Sweep. I see you're getting your flowers there in the Twitch chat as well. And he just said, Hoobie is Faust. He's good. Yeah, we know. We know Faust is pretty good at Clash Royale, and looks like you are too as well. So, again, GG's. A reminder, we are now in every single match. We're going to watch all of these. We're in every single match is going to be an elimination matchup. And our first matchup is going to be Surgical Goblin against Keith. So, we will see. That's going to be a crazy one. Keith is one of the players who I don't want to say it this way, but like maybe skated in to World Finals last year, right? There were a couple players who were out on the bubble, and Keith did make it into World Finals last year. A serious accomplishment, meant that you performed well enough throughout the year to put yourself in that position. Surgical Goblin here, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. Obviously, a lot of people at home picking Surgical Goblin. Talk to me, I don't know how much you guys have watched Chief Keef. We saw him a bit last year. Anyone have any thoughts on Keith as he's going into this kind of very big moment for him as a player?
For me, when it kind of feels like Keith always does fairly well in tournaments and just kind of qualifies to the next round. So this is kind of one of those times where it just feels like it's meant for him to qualify, which is, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to have to go with. I think this is kind of just, he's going to play really well and he's going to surprise a lot of people.
The other thing to really think about here is it's super hard. It's a super hard question because, I mean, it's Surgical Goblin, but Surgical Goblin's been retired for like 2 years and he's coming back. So, I mean, it really is hard to see or like predict what could happen. I mean, maybe the new guy, maybe Keith, he comes in and he takes it from Surge, the OG. Definitely is a possibility.
It's a possibility, no questions asked, but it is also one of those ones where it's a big one. And you talk about nerves here, Josh. I have to imagine that Surgical Goblin's nerves are far lower. He has a world title under his belt. He's doing pretty fine. I have to imagine that Keith is the one who's feeling it a bit more in this moment.
Yeah, it feels kind of like a lot of pro players might believe that it's like disrespectful that Surgical can just take this break and then just come back and dominate. And so you do have that insane added pressure of being the guy that Surgical beat in order to qualify if you end up losing this set. So while, yes, Surgical is going to have a little bit of pressure, he wants to be able to qualify, he wants to like prove to everybody that, you know, he's back and he's better than ever. That has to be such a huge weight on your shoulders, knowing that you could have been the one to stop Surgical from making that comeback. So yeah, he's got to be pretty worried right now.
I mean, that's a big question for you, Juicy. The Italian player, 8.7K personal best, made it to World Finals last year. But it's also kind of obviously you'd rather win and be in that prize pool money, but if he does win, is Chief Keef the ultimate villain of 2022 for knocking out one of the most popular players in Clash Royale history?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's a villain. You know, everyone's out there just trying to do their best. You know, it's a single player game. You're out for yourself. You're doing the best for yourself. On the other end of the spectrum, I feel like Surgical Goblin, he's just one of those guys where everything goes right for him. Like I feel like Surge might have Lady Luck on his side in this situation, but I'm not really sure what could happen.
We're gonna find out right now. Let's say bye to Juicy J. We'll see you in a little bit, but right now, Josh, we're about to go into our matchup. Here we go. Questions about to be answered. Surgical Goblin against Chief Keef. Winner moves on, loser leaves town.
Keef coming in with the Zappy cycled in the back. Surgical using the Giant Skeleton, the Skeletons, and the Logs so far. So it's looking like it could be RG. But now that we're seeing the Fire Spirit as well, I'm guessing Hog?
That does feel like Hog, yeah.
And then it looks like it is going to be the Royal Hogs Mirror Giant Skeleton deck on the opposite end.
So this is an interesting matchup because in any sort of Hog cycle deck, and this one being no different, especially even maybe more because this deck is so heavy, those Skeletons and that Fire Spirit are so critical for defense and for cycle. What is that? How does that math work out here with not just one, but more likely two Mother Witches because of that mirror?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to get really awkward for him because we need to see the next two cards, but I don't know if he's going to have the correct responses a lot of the time. I need to see... Yeah, we're not going to see a delivery on Surgical side, and that delivery would be so massive in this matchup, but we are going to see the Fireball, and so that does change a lot of things. I was thinking that it was going to be, you know, the Earthquake, and we were going to see the Royal Hogs just run rampant all over the arena. That's not going to be the case. He's now going to have the Fire Spirit, Log, Skellies, and then also the Fireball as well, as just two different cycles where he can defend the Royal Hogs.
That Fireball is massive here, and definitely not what Keef was expecting after seeing so many cards that would look like it would go towards the Earthquake. And that does leave a question of, is Surge have something else in his pocket that is Earthquake, maybe Royal Giant Earthquake as one of his later decks. So we'll see if we get to that point, but right now it's a lot coming down both lanes here that Surge is defending very cleanly so far, and keeping that cannon up is a nice moment for him as well.
Yeah, great timing, great placements from Surgical on that set of defense, and yeah, I mean that was perfectly placed. We need to see the Log right there, and I'm hoping that we receive no damage, just so we can properly congratulate that defense. Yeah, no damage whatsoever, and that was a lot of troops, a lot of elixir on the board on Keef's end. If Surgical can keep this up, that's going to be dangerous for Keef if he's going to try and get offense. But, you know, we know this deck fairly well at this point, and it does not struggle at getting damage all that often.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens here as we get towards double and then triple elixir, and the pushes build, the pressures begins to increase. And this is going to be some nice little damage from the piggies on the right-hand side as the Archer Queen focuses on that Giant Skeleton, and the Skeletons come out to help. But now the lead heavily in the favor of the Italian.
Wow, and he's going to be running Drill with this deck. And I have to say, I'm not that big of a fan of this deck from Surgical in game number one. You need that Magic Archer pressure with the Drill, in my opinion. You know, because it's Fireball, you can get a lot of pressure with Fireballs on top, you know, able to get the Mother Witch, able to get the Fisherman that gets placed. But I think he's really going to struggle in getting damage, even though he's brought it back fairly close at this point.
Royal Hogs down, and now Cannon with the Giant Skeleton high. Pigs are not going to do anything onto the weak side tower, so good moment here for Surgical Goblin. Keef putting a lot of pressure on as the Royal Ghost does do a good job of maintaining the lead and picking up that Goblin Drill. But this bridge fight has gone totally the way of Surgical Goblin. Fish Boy down, Pig goes the opposite direction, Fireball in, this might clear some room, and that's a lot of extra damage. Archer Queen nearly gets a little bit extra, 11:43 to 17, 18, 20 seconds left. Can Keef break through in these final moments?
He does not have enough pressure on the left side, so Surgical can just fully defend on the right side. We see the Giant Skeleton, the second Giant Skeleton, the Log will come out, the Fireball will come out, and he is going to take game number one. I have to eat my own words, saying he might not be able to get enough damage. Completely incorrect with that statement. And once it hit triple elixir, the drills kept flying, the fireballs kept flying, and the damage was done.
What an unbelievable selection of defense. And you talk about the things that make Surgical Goblin great, that made him great at the front of his career, set him aside from everybody else in 2017, and then have continued to be key factors. What an amazing defender he has always been.
Yeah, it's the reason why he dominated the first year and a half of tournaments. He could tell you that he was going to be running Logbait, Inferno Tower, Logbait Tornado, specifically Logbait Tornado, and you would just say like, okay, I'm going to try 18 different variations in order to beat you with all my decks, and I'm still going to be losing. The way he's always been able to defend and get that, you know, whatever counter push going, but also keeping track of Elixir. It's certainly amazing to see him back in this kind of form, because absolutely he does everything right. And also, I want to point out his deck selection. I wonder if he used that deck specifically for that kind of matchup, and I kind of want to take a look at Keith's overall Royale API, just because that is not a real deck that he used, but it really had a lot of success in that game number 1.
And Golem here in game number 2 from Surgical Goblin. And the drill has to come out defensively here. Magic Archer not going to do a whole lot here. Baby Dragon almost escapes from that pull to the middle. But no damage in from the Baby Dragon as of yet. Little Golemite pop on the right-hand side. And Dark Prince, NATO for the King Tower activation opened things up, by the way, for... We didn't acknowledge that one earlier, but the NATO bar barrel combo is nice. Dark Prince for the drill. This is an interesting matchup here, because often drill does well against Golem. This is a little bit of a different Golem look.
Yeah, I think Surgical. I was going through Keith's Royale API, and it just makes sense. I think Surgical is full out sniping. I think he's just trying to get the best matchups. Keith has used Drill Tornado, RG Zappy's Mother Witch, Drill Tornado, Royal Hog's Giant Skeleton, and Drill Tornado in 6 of his 7 games so far. So I think he's fully just abandoning all common sense when it comes to just regular ladder matchups, and he's going for the snipes. But wow, look at this Magic Archer.
Yeah, this was so much damage. The drill pulling the Golem back, which is going to allow for a bit of a hefty counter push here, but I'm not sure if Surgical Goblin can break through on this one. Really nicely prepared sequence out of Keith, and he's going to come out way ahead from it.
Yeah, the thing is, Keith does not have that tower damage that he desperately needs sometimes. If he can pull off something right here, I just don't know how he's going to be able to stop this Magic Archer unless he predicts right there. Tower down to 150. Tower does not get there in time. Down to 30 HP. That would have been absolutely dangerous if he did not get that last Goblin stab. I think Surgical would have won.
Can he beat this out?
25 HP.
And, oh my god, my 5 HP! What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Unbelievable. Couldn't get to the NATO, couldn't get to the drill, and somehow, against all odds, this is the guy who does it. What a day. What an unbelievable day. 10 HP, 45 HP, 5 HP. Are you kidding me?
What? It only does 25 HP. There's 30 HP left on the tower. He's up to 3 elixir. I was watching. I was just waiting. Can he get to 3.7 elixir or whatever he needs right there? Does not get the tornado off in time. And what was it? Tower was at 1700 HP. I am absolutely on my way to check how much HP was on that tower. He should not have been able to win that game, let me tell you.
That's the craziest ending. I don't know what was happening with the cycle there. I mean, the NATO, I'm trying to like think back. Oh, I wish we could replay that. I'm trying to like think back to how the sequencing went, and I guess the NATO was just buried at that point. Because that, I mean, that felt like it was like, we're going to game 3 here. No, we're not. Surgical Goblin. I mean, I need to look at his full... Juicy, get back in here. I need to look at his full, like, what his total HP win balance has been, because right there you have like just 3 games overall decided by a total of 60 HP. Juicy, what the heck?
I don't even know what I just watched, Rich. Like, that was insane. I mean, yes, all Nikoko needed was to get that last tornado down, but Surge just somehow able to hold on. And I think the biggest thing there was, like, do you think he knew that Drill didn't do enough? Like, do you think he could have got that tornado off at the end? It was so close.
Was the tornado still buried? That's my question.
No, the tornado was in hand. It was definitely in hand.
Yeah, he was waiting for the elixir. It has everything. Also, I looked back, 1707, 1,707 HP on the tower against 30 HP, and he gets it done.
Wait, so was that just like he could have played tornado instead of drill?
No, he had
to play drill and then tornado.
Yes.
Okay.
But then could he have drilled defensively and then tornado?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
my
what about
Lord.
that?
Yeah, that's part of why drill does well against golem typically, is because you have this extra way to pull, and then you can figure out your magic archer, your magic archer and golden knight damage. That's crazy. Could he have drilled defensively, stopped all that, nadoed it out, and now we're still on game number 3? Instead, drill on tower, 5 HP, GG, well played.
What'd I say? Surge, Lady Luck on his side, just barely able to take that W there. That was insane.
It's like people just want him to win. Josh, what's up, man? Your brains, I can see your brain melting right now.
It doesn't make sense. If that was, I'm just saying this, if that was me in that situation, that wouldn't have happened. My opponent would have drilled on defense. Anybody else in the world, that something else would have gone differently. I don't know how he walks away with a victory.
Toby and Yuya coming up next, and I see someone saying I thought Drill did 33. I wonder is that what Drill does on ladder?
Probably.
As opposed to maybe he was thinking ladder damage as opposed to his tournament damage. Either way, I'm gonna step away, guys. Take it away here with Toby and Yuya.
Yeah, you can take a break. You deserve it after that last game. That I feel like I deserve the break as well, but I'll give it to you. I'm a nice guy. Here we go, Yuya versus Toby, and same thing as last game. Winner moves on to the next stage. Loser walks away with a healthy amount of money in their pocket, but it could have been healthier. Game number 1, Yuya gonna start off with Hog. Trainer Toby gonna start off with Lightning Mega Knight. Forgot the word for Mega Knight.
So we got a Hog Inferno versus a Lightning Mega Knight. I mean, the Lightning, just based off what I'm seeing here, Lightning for the Archer Queen, Mini P.E.K.K.A for the Hog Rider. Toby's got to be feeling pretty good about that right now. On the other end, I think that Yuya's got a little bit more consistent damage with this Earthquake chip, maybe sneaking a Hog hit here or there. He's got the Valkyrie and the Inferno Tower on defense, which is going to be so solid. Looks like Toby's going to go for this Rainmaker at the bridge. How is Yuya going to respond? He's got the Archer Queen, he's got the Log, and that's going to be a really good defense there.
Yeah, really solid response right there. Can he get the Archer Queen timing? Mega Knight is going to be placed on the left side, and that's going to target the Archer Queen. Valk is going to have a free walk to the tower, and I think it's still going to get a shot on the tower. It absolutely does. 27-27, and beautiful timing right there. That is not easy to do. Yuya able to take out the Mega Knight because of the Inferno Tower as well as the Mini P.E.K.K.A. So brilliant play from Yuya right there.
Yeah, really good Inferno Tower value. Magic Archer on the other end from Toby, just kind of taking everything out here. The Rain Rider does connect. That's a huge connection. That could mean the difference between the win and the loss. The other thing is Toby had that Mini P.E.K.K.A. ready like I was talking about. If you have that Mini P.E.K.K.A. ready, you can always prevent those hog hits and have that 4 elixir Mini P.E.K.K.A. counter pushing. Looks like Toby is going to be up on damage right now. I'm not sure how what he's going to have to do in order to come back here. Here comes the Hog Archer Queen combo. The Mini P.E.K.K.A. was late this time, so the Hog does get a hit in here.
Wow, and look at this. Inferno Tower up high, going to take out the Magic Archer. Not focused on the Ram Rider whatsoever, just trying to take out the Magic Archer instead. So that's interesting to see that he chooses to go in that direction. Ram Rider will make it to the tower as well as getting the charge. So left tower down to 1814, right tower down to 1988, and the Lightning brings it down to 1497. So you do have the consistent damage with the Log Earthquake. You know, the Hogs will make it to the tower, but so far, Toby has dominated this game as we head into triple elixirs sometime soon.
Absolutely. I think Toby, I feel like Toby definitely has a really nice matchup here, but if Yuya did play perfectly, I think there's a chance that he can win. And I think the biggest mistake there on that last defense was the low Inferno, or like the high Inferno tower that allowed the Zappies to be able to hit it. Lightning comes down, cleans up the Archer Queen and the Inferno. Valkyrie is here to help defend though. And with no tower damage on the Lightning, I feel like that was a small mistake from Toby, not getting any damage there. See if Yuya can find a way to get any damage back though.
See, right there, I think there was an opportunity for Yuya to try and get a Log Earthquake on top of the towers and take out the Zappies. I think that would have been really important. Needs to get that damage. Speaking of damage, Hog is going to force out a Mini P.E.K.K.A, Mega Knight, and Snowball because of a huge mistake, messing up the timing with the Mega Knight. And he needs to get a Value Inferno Tower, gets the Mini P.E.K.K.A, will get the Mega Knight as well. And here we go. We finally see the Earthquake, and we are going to see a late Log to be able to take out the Ram Rider and the Magic Archer.
Yeah, we got 20 seconds left in this game. Toby's up about 400 damage. I don't know if Yuya can cycle enough Earthquakes to make up for that damage. And on the other end, like the Hog is just never going to be able to get to the tower. He's got the Ram Rider slow. He's got the Snowball to knock back. He's got the Mini P.E.K.K.A. He's got the Mega Knight. He's got so many options, and Earthquake is just simply not enough. And that's going to be game. Toby taking the first win here by about 500 HP.
Yeah, brilliant game overall from Toby. Going to be able to take game number 1. And an interesting variation of the deck, using the Zappies, using the Magic Archer, not going in with the normal Bandit. You know, talk me through why you would use that with this meta.
The only thing I can think of is maybe one, you're trying to snipe. Maybe you know your opponent's going to use that Hog Rider. You put that Mini P.E.K.K.A in. And you put the Magic Archer maybe potentially because you want to save your Archer Queen for later in the match. Like right here, maybe a Hog Earthquake Archer Queen Giant Skelly is going to be coming out right now. So that's probably his thought process there. When he saved that Archer Queen, using that Magic Archer instead. And I think it's going to end up working out. Looks like not Giant Skelly, so maybe he's trying to save that Giant Skelly for game 3. But looking like a Valkyrie Hog EQ with Archer Queen from Toby. For Yuya, using a Drill Bridge Tram deck, what do you think about the matchup here?
So I think from what we've seen, when they use the Dark Prince, that Giant Skeleton is not going to be used as well. I forgot which one it was, but I think that's how it goes. Overall, Toby's going to have a lot of answers. We've seen this with Mortar decks before where it's difficult. This one is going to be a Hog deck, and so that's going to be insanely different. The Mortar does struggle sometimes to get damage. It struggles sometimes on defense. Right here, you are going to have that constant pressure. If you try and overload, if you use the Tornado on offense with the Magic Archer, the Hogs will be able to run free and be able to get a lot of damage on top of the towers. So because it's Hog Quick Cycle, because you do have the correct answers, and the Log plus the Earthquake is going to be great for defending Magic Archers always, I think this is probably a great matchup for Toby, as long as he doesn't get too aggressive.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. If he plays good defense, uses his Valkyrie, the Valkyrie makes a big difference here. Like, Giant Skelly is really good, but I feel like Valkyrie's even better here because you have the Valkyrie for the drill. Valkyrie's super useful against the Gold Knight, other stuff as well. If you can use that 3-card cycle, get a bunch of Valkyries out on defense, not overcommit, and allow Yuya to have this crazy counter push, he should be able to win. But here's a counter push right now. We got the drill, we got the Dark Prince. What does he do for this?
It's going to depend how he wants to play that Valk. And so we are going to potentially get in a mind game situation. Right here, the mind game does not work out for him. Magic Archer is able to snipe the tower, gets the tower down to 2346. So it's always going to be awkward for Yuya. You know, does he want to try and get the Magic Archer plus the Tornado on offense to get the Golden Knight dash, while also being able to defend? On the opposite side, you can use the NATO because you have the E-Wiz plus Dark Prince plus Magic Archer off to the side or the Golden Knight, so you can get aggressive with tornadoes. Once we hit late double elixir, especially triple elixir, that's when he's going to start really getting aggressive on offense. So I think Toby kind of needs to have a pretty big advantage into triple elixir. Otherwise,
Yep.
it gets scary for him.
Yep. If Toby can't find a way to get a damage lead here, it's going to be really difficult. I think the biggest mistake that he keeps making is he keeps wasting these Archer Queen abilities on defense. It'd be a lot more lucrative for him to like use the Archer Queen right now, for example. Like allow you to defend on your side of the map without the ability, and then use your ability to clean up extra troops. And because of those mistakes that he keeps making with his Archer Queen, he's not really able to find a way to get damage. And now as we head closer, 30 seconds away from Triple Elixir, with these huge pushes, with the cannon card staying alive for so long, I think it's slowly getting more and more in Yuya's favor as the time ticks down.
Yeah, this is a massive opportunity for him, but he elects to go in with the full reset, and I don't disagree with it whatsoever. It forces him to pop the ability, so this is 5 Elixir to 7 Elixir, a healthy advantage for him, as well as troops on the board. We are going to see him get slightly aggressive. Cannon cart plus the Golden Knight. We could finally see the dash popped onto the tower. A Fire Spirit brilliantly placed, and that's going to completely nullify the ability. A brilliant response from Toby, and Toby still has the lead. All of a sudden, he has that advantage he was looking for.
Yeah, Toby's playing some god tier defense right now, even though it is Triple Elixir, and that's the one thing about Yuya's deck. The one weakness is the fact that you do not have a big spell. Yuya, you know, he can prevent the Hog Rider hits, but you can't prevent that Earthquake chip. And now there's 30 seconds left. And Yuya needs a big connection here from like a Cannon Cart or Magic Archer or even a Gold Knight if he wants to win this game, especially with that Hog getting hit here. Here comes the push.
Yeah, this is going to be it. Inferno Tower does lock onto the correct troop, and that is another missed Tornado opportunity. He now can no longer Tornado with the Golden Knight. Not going to be able to get the dash onto the tower. A completely dominant Triple Elixir from Trainer Toby. And Yuya is going to get knocked out completely. Congratulations to Trainer Toby.
AC, let me tell you, that Valkyrie was the MVP of that match. Did you see at the end there how much value it got? Killing that Magic Archer, the Cannon Card, the Barbara, everything. The Golden Knight, that Valkyrie was definitely MVP. I don't think that a Giant Skelly could do the same thing. Giant Skelly is really nice, but the deck pick there from Toby was huge. Like, having the wherewithal to use that Valkyrie, save that Giant Skeleton for the third game potentially for like a Royal Giant deck. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The Valkyrie was so impressive. I think another thing that I really liked out of him in game number 2 was the value he got from Earthquakes. End of Triple Elixir, he was just cycling them constantly on top of the tower while also getting a little bit of chip damage on Cannon Cards, Golden Knights, E-Wizzes, but also throughout the game he was getting the correct defensive Earthquakes on top of the Magic Archers throughout, and that's just so important. I don't think that we saw that from Yuya in game number 1 when he had the potential to take out Zappies, you know, take out whatever he needed to take out. So I think just a really excellent job from Trainer Toby to just play the matchups correctly.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I didn't even think about that. I think Yuya did have some opportunities for some Earthquake chip in that first game, and that's kind of what separated the two players. I think Toby maybe just playing a little bit better there, and definitely deserved W there.
Absolutely. So this set, who do we have? Okay, so it sounds like Rich is well rested. Rich, welcome back.
Oh, I'm back. I've caught my breath after all of it going away with Surge's 5 HP matchup. And now we have 2 more people who've made our way into our top 16 with Surge and now Trainer Toby. And Trainer Toby been celebrating a bit over there in the Twitch chat as well. Man, that, you know, it's one of the questions about that matchup there at the end. You know, obviously the best place for directly getting damage as fast as you can is to put the drill right on the front of the tower. Was there any thought to going drill side, or I know you probably don't want to go drill back in that situation because you do want to keep stuff kind of close for Golden Knight dashes, but it did feel like those drills weren't doing anything other than getting Valkyries on the board.
That's actually a really good point. I think you're 100% right. The other thing about the drill in the front thing that made a big difference there is that the Inferno Towers that he's placing in the middle was able to shred those down and allow the log to come out to take out those goblins really quick. I think the drill on the side there, or even the drill in the back, because if you go drill in the back, then Toby has to decide where he wants to put the Valkyrie. Do you put it on the back of the drill, or do you put it at the front on the units? Because when you do put the drill in the front or the side, you can use your Valkyrie to help distract other units while taking out the drill. So I do think you're right. I think some drill like change ups on placements there could have allowed for some damage.
Well, they did not in the end, so Yuya's journey ends here. Toby now moves on to our top 16 and talking about our next matchup. I mean, this one is actually really big because it's probably the two of the biggest young players overall in CRL. I would say now, and I'm curious about what your thoughts on here. One of the top 3 players out of France now in Hugo, and I'll prep you guys for this as I talk for a moment. I want to know where you place Hugo all time on the list of French players. There's a lot of top tier classic players, classic pros out of France. And then on the other side of things, Adriel, who has had quite a journey in his Clash Royale career, and especially one today. So let's start with the Hugo conversation. Where do you two, and I'll start with you, Juicy, where do you put Hugo on the all-time French players list? We have Lupanji, we have Donkey Kong, we have Azealis, we have Viper, so many talented French players. Where does he stack for you?
Honestly, I feel like I don't even have enough information about that, to be honest. But, I mean, I would say at least top 10, right? At least.
Josh, before we send you off, same question for you.
Oh, I think we're sending Juicy off, so I think I have plenty of time. I could be wrong, though.
Nope. I'm staying, bro.
Man, what? Okay. I'm going to be placing him top 5, but Azealis is always number 1 in my heart.
Number 1 former player for a lot of top-tier teams, and, of course, maybe the best poker player out of all of the former CRL pros. And we'll say bye to Josh here as we have one of our a staring contest here, Juicy, between Hugo and Adriel.
Yeah, a bit. It looks like Adriel started with this zap here just to try and maybe prompt Hugo to make a play so he could react to it. But, you know, he's going to take that damage, and Hugo's not going to overcommit with anything. Waiting this long, definitely going to be some beatdown or some, like, heavier control decks, potentially. Seeing the zap from Adriel, I would not be surprised to see a Lava Hound. I'm not really sure what Hugo could be playing though.
A little inside baseball here for people, but I with Adriel's picture, the older he gets, the more he looks like his father. So growing up nicely are these young pros, and we'll see if one of them does pull the trigger here as we get closer to those final 20 seconds of gameplay.
Yeah, double elixir is going to mean a lot. I'd be interested to see once double elixir hits if someone will make a play to take advantage of that slight elixir lead that you can get, or maybe both players are just going to be completely content and waiting for each other to make that first play so they could respond. And nope, goes to the bridge from Hugo. Inferno from Adriel. Maybe some Mega Knights? No, a Giant Skelly. Maybe a Giant Skelly drill bridge fan versus my Lava Hound idea from Adriel here. Here comes the lava.
And looking for some separation is Hugo, and he does get it.
You're absolutely right. Taking the Mighty Miner out very nicely with the Fisherman, and then the Queen taking out that Inferno Dragon first, leaving the lava for last. And now there's a big counter push. 2 Giant Skellies, Arch Queen, Fisherman. Log comes down the Tombstone, goes to get some damage on the other lane. Tombstone, Log was a little bit quick, but the Giant Skelly is making it to the tower right now.
That's absolutely huge. No way to pull that off. That's going to be a nice chunk of damage as it goes kaboom. 1183 on the left-hand side. And now it's Adriel splitting lanes. The Loon to the right-hand side. Lightning comes out on defense, but Loon will connect. Still damage in the left-hand lane as well with the pups going to town on that left-hand side. Skelly Drags connect, and suddenly both towers in a lot of trouble for Hugo. While the action was slow to kick things off, it has gone on fire here as we go into sudden death.
Yeah, I think the most important play there by Adriel was to, realize that he wasn't able to defend, not overcommit versus that Giant Skelly, and then say my turn and then attack on both lanes with everything he had. Once again, on that attack, I think it was really important that he delayed on his Skelly Drags on the right hand side to not give that lightning too much value. Here comes another lightning on defense. Since Archer Queen is Hugo's only air targeting card, you can only have one of them down on the board at a time. It can be difficult to defend those opposite lane air pushes, but he does his best. Skelly Dragon getting quite a bit of damage here, and here comes another balloon using that Mighty Miner 3-card cycle.
Balloon not going to quite get there, and I think drops just outside of death damage range. 388 stays on that tower. Ghost has to get picked up. You can't sacrifice those shots at this stage. Adriel with a nice advantage at the moment, and Fireball in the deck, so spends the Fireball, has to Tombstone.
Yeah, with triple elixir, I think he's going to cycle back that Fireball extremely quickly, and that's me game. Adriel taking the first game, and Hugo needs to win this next game if he wants to continue this best of 3 and stay in it.
This is a big one for Adriel, who has long been a world-class level player, finally got old enough for CRL at the end of last season, and had a run where, you know, he put up a whole lot of points, but of course not quite able to accumulate enough in those late stages to make it into CRL World Finals, but was one of our picks last year as one of the rookies of the year and a guy to watch this year. And of course, right now he is one game of Clash Royale away from moving on to our top 16.
Fisherman in the middle from Adriel. Flying Machine to pick that up. Maybe an RG from Adriel. Hugo. Maybe some Fireball bait kind of thing. Maybe some like recruits. Let's see. Skeletons come down, so a quicker cycle. Zappy's here. And already looking like Hugo's got a pretty nice matchup here. Assuming Adriel has a lightning. Zappy's, Flying Machine, that sort of stuff. The Fireball bait kind of thing. It's definitely what you want to be having against the lightning deck, but you never know what spell Adriel will be using here. Here comes the RG of the bridge. Might see a cage on defense from Hugo. Let's see. No, a Mega Knight. Interesting.
Now, interesting choice here. Why does Adriel go with the Royal Giant into that left-hand lane when neither of his towers are weak, and he already had a bit of a chip on the right? Was that just an instinct thing, or is there any specific reason he went that side?
I can't think of a big reason. I mean, there's one.
Boy.
Yeah, this is hard to watch. I can't really answer this question right now with everything happening. He does talk back to Skeleton, so he does have something for his mirror mini P.E.K.K.A. But Hugo's got a huge advantage already. And maybe you're right, Rich. Maybe it's not a matter of lanes, but maybe he shouldn't have gone for that RG at all, since Hugo does have that huge counter push potential. And he's getting quite a bit of damage here as well with the pigs.
Game number 2 completely out of hand for Adriel. Hugo making his case to stay alive here. 88-12, the personal best for the Frenchman, and looking to add what would probably be the greatest achievement of his career with a performance this weekend, and of course continuing that next weekend.
And there we got to see how strong the Zappies are when you do not have the correct response. RG only able to get one hit. Adriel is able to kind of clean up that defense quite nicely this time, though. The mirror Flying Machine on the board, extremely annoying. Here comes some pigs as well. Arrows trying to clean up, but the Dark Prince does it quite a good job. The Flying Machine not in range of the tower, so the Hunter forced to come down. And now we're back to another Flying Machine. The Dark Prince does connect. And Adriel, all of a sudden, he's doing a really good job of just preventing damage and chipping away, trying to come back here. If he wins this game, I'd be really surprised, though, especially with how strong Hugo's defense is with his Zappies and the mini P.E.K.K.A. and stuff like that.
It was a very important shot to connect. Now the log out of cycle. Hunter plus arrows plus Hunter Spear all trying. Gets back to log. Eats just a little bit here. 353 remaining.
That's the thing about pigs, am I right? Like, it's always getting a little bit of damage. Mirror mini P.E.K.K.As on defense versus that RG. Will get one shot. Hunter doing his best to clean up the mini P.E.K.K.A. Really close game right now. Adriel is sitting back on this lightning. We can't forget about that. If that tower gets down to, 300-400 range, Adriel is going to be very close to spell radius, whereas Hugo only with the mirrored arrows. Not exactly enough to finish off games at this point. Here comes a Mega Knight. The Flying Machine survives. That's huge.
Oh,
this Flying Machine
boy.
is getting so much value. The Mega Knight's going to distract the Hunter. Look how much value this Flying Machine is getting. And the arrows are going to come down. Piggy's always chipping away.
Wow, Log does hold on for a little bit. Hunter in front, and it was the Hunter play to the bottom left corner as the Flying Machine came up top, and that Flying Machine just sat and made a home here. 2:42 remaining. Lightning now to get that Flying Machine off the board. Piggy's in. Darkpin's trying to hold. Skelly's behind. Has to stop these pigs from connecting at all. One's getting body blocked up high, and the Mother Witch can create some serious problems right now.
It absolutely is. 27 seconds left here. The pigs are spawning everywhere. They aren't connecting to the tower, though. The Hunter and everything doing their best. Here comes some mirrored arrows, and that's going to be enough. That's going to be a good game. Hugo taking the second match, forcing this to a game 3. Who got your money on, Rich?
Wow.
Not to put you on the spot.
Can I pick someone who already won, right? Like, I got my money on Morton and Surgical Goblin and Pandora and Ender. I have no idea what to do here. This is crazy.
This is insane. All right,
Let me try to look at the matchups here. They went off the screen a little bit too fast.
Let's see what the matchups here. Looks like we're not going to have what we had in the first couple games. No waiting now. Hugo looks like a very kind of a drill bridge fan, or not a drill bridge fan, but a drill spam with some wall breakers and probably like the drill plus a bomber combo. Just going to be a drill bridge fan from Audio versus a drill spam from Hugo. I'm not sure who has a matchup here. The Valkyrie is going to be getting a lot of value from Hugo. I know that. Guard's going to be cleaning up this cannon cart. Fireball. He has Fireball for the Magic Archer as well. That's really solid.
And it feels like the wall breakers are going to pretty much always be they'll always be forcing out a little overspend to defend them, right? There's nothing cheap to pick them up with here. The NATO,
Absolutely.
the best option. But even then, you're getting a +1 advantage there.
Same thing with that Fire Spirit. Like, forcing out 4 Elixir Gold Knight just because he wants to prevent that damage. Like, it's definitely important to prevent that damage, but it's not what Adriel's wanting to do. Valkyrie's going to come down and clean up this as well. Now we're going to see a huge counter push. Ooh, I like this play from Adriel. Basically blocking, kind of predicting the drill to come down. But Hugo, really patient. Waits, realizes that play could have happened, and gets a nice Inferno Tower, shredding that Giant Skelly. Adriel's up 1 Elixir, but Hugo does have this Inferno Tower. Going to stay up for quite a bit. Going to kind of block this lane. Looks like Adriel's leaking some Elixir, waiting for the play, and now he's going to try and defend this without taking damage.
Yeah, and that was interesting, right? Because you see Hugo give up the Elixir advantage that might be one of the key factors for him. And Adriel playing it very, very patiently. So many players might have cycled something in the back, tried to start building here, but instead, just look at how clean the defense has been so far, opting to... And I think this is probably the right move, right? Because
no, absolutely.
I think that Adriel is going to get a bit more advantage when we get into double and triple Elixir, and those overspends on defense don't impact him as much.
Absolutely. A lot of the time with these these counter push oriented decks, like Splash Yard or this drill, a lot of times single Elixir you are playing reactively. Even if you have a 1 or 2 Elixir advantage, a lot of the time it is good. Just wait for that opponent to play something. Now that we're into double Elixir, it's going to be a lot different. Adriel's going to be able to build up some big pushes, continue to defend and counter push. But the biggest thing is the big pushes, right? Like, Hugo does have the Fireball, he does have the Valkyrie, but how do you stop a Giant Skelly plus Goldeneye plus Magic Archer plus Drill? Like, there's some crazy pushes that you can make with Adriel's deck, and Hugo's gonna do his best to try and, you know, pressure and make sure those things don't happen. But 50 seconds until triple Elixir.
And this is a lot of dual lane pressure set up. You already have the Inferno Tower low. You don't want to spend the Fireball there. Now, this is interesting, though, because part of Adriel's game plan is keep those Fireballs off his tower as much as possible. You see those high Magic Archers, but right now, a good opportunity for a Fireball to create some room.
Absolutely. Fireball takes out the E-Wiz. Defensive Drill going to clean up the wall breakers. Always making that negative Elixir trade, like you said. Valkyrie does connect on the right-hand side. That's going to be the first bit of chunk of damage that Hugo really gets here. And here comes another Drill on the left. Cannon Cart is a threat. He does the Fire Spirit. He needs something else. He goes for the Valk. Golden Knight and Ghost defense for the Drill is going to be so good on defense. No damage going to come through there. And now we're almost into triple elixir. I think the later it gets in this game, obviously the more pressure Adriel will be able to create, but we can't forget that Adriel does not have the big spell. Hugo, just a couple fireballs. In a game like this where, you know, the HP is so close, just a couple fireballs is going to make a difference. And here comes the first fireball.
And that's the big question, right? Is how often can he get fireball value, or more importantly, how often can Hugo take the Magic Archer off here by some methodology other than fireball and get that fireball on tower? We'll see here. Magic Archer at the bridge behind this Drill on the right-hand side. Fireball forced out there at the bridge, but the lead only precariously held by Adriel with 23 seconds left, 21:54 to now 21:45 as it swings back to Hugo.
Notice how Hugo is pressuring the ops lane, even though he had more damage on his left, our right, just a minute ago. That's really important because it makes it so Adriel's counter-pushing units isn't able to help him out on the counter-push. And it's really close right now. Drill and the fireball connects, but that cannon card's locked on the left-hand side, and that's going to be enough.
Oh my word. Hugo focusing on that right side defense did a great job distracting the Magic Archer with the wall breakers. Doesn't matter. Cannon cart slips through, and as it has done so many times in the past, most famously at the World Finals for CCGS in 2017, Cannon cart slides on through, gets on tower, and is an absolute game changer.
Yeah, I mean, like I was talking about, it's all about the defense and counter push with that deck. Adriel or Hugo pushing that opposite lane to prevent Adriel from attacking the lane he wanted to, but it ended up not making a difference. That cannon cart counter pushing from defending that Drill, locking on the tower, and clutching up that victory for him.
What a huge one. So Adriel, and I'm seeing people in the chat saying didn't even notice. Yeah, that cannon cart just snuck on through. You're focusing on Hugo, everyone focusing on Hugo, defending that right-hand tower, trying to play that tight game. And if that had been the situation, Fireball would have won it on the bottom left-hand side. It wasn't. Cannon cart, absolute game changer, devastating. And Adriel now joins our top 16 and is getting one step closer to Clash Royale League World Finals in Finland. Man, this is a fun day, and we still have a whole lot more. Let's get Josh back on here. Joshua, AC, what's happening? Talk to me about that finish.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'll fully admit it. I wasn't looking at the left side. I was looking at the right side on offense and the right side on his right side on defense, and yeah, I was getting ready to congratulate Hugo and say all these nice things, but yeah, it's a two-lane game, and left side goes down.
Left side goes down indeed. Yeah, Josh, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say those wall breakers, he was using it to defend the cannon cart, tank the cannon cart, as well as tank the Magic Archer in the other lane, and they just didn't have enough HP, not enough hit points. Cannon cart took out the left side wall breaker in 2 shots and locked on, and we all know how devastating that cannon cart is when it locks on, it has so much health.
Absolutely, and that was a big shift, and now we're down to our final 3 matches of the day. Each one of these, of course, continuing to be make or break matches. Up next, Capgun versus Osama, then Faust, aka Hubi, up against Nikoko, and then Abbas against Sandbox. So 3 more of these finishing matchups there. Man, Adriel, he's been very good for a very long time, had kind of a quiet year this year, but Josh and I talked about it before. When he is able to put in the time, able to put in that focused effort, we see top-tier performance.
Yeah, I am so excited to see him move on to the next stage. He is one of those players that I've been watching for the last 4 or 5 years at this point, and he's certainly one of my favorite players to watch in competitive. I always have a lot of faith in him to go far, and so just really excited to see him move on to this next stage.
It's going to be exciting for him as for sure. Juicy J, we'll see you in just a little bit here, but Josh and I are going to jump in to our next matchup. Capgun versus Osama, and I believe that you were talking about Osama earlier in the day, Josh?
That's right. Osama, one of my 3M brethren. Don't expect to see him use the 3 Musketeers in this competition. He's definitely one of my one of my favorite players to watch. We see right there just the prediction snowball. It's you know 2 of the cards in your opponent's cycle. You know, based off the fact that he has Golden Knight, he probably doesn't have Skellies or any card that would actually benefit from that. And as soon as I say positive things, what do you know? A mistake gets made. But luckily, we have a little bit of pressure on the left side. It looks like it's going to be a 2-tower situation where both towers are going down.
Yeah, the trade happens, but that E-bar continuing to shred the right-hand side here. And is this is this 3M on a captain?
Yeah, you can finish the sentence.
Yeah.
I think the last 2 cards should be 3 Musketeers and the pump. He does have a massive advantage right now. Just waiting for the pump to get used. He can get that positive elixir trade if he wants to use it. Because he knows that his opponent has to follow up with the lightning. It's going to give him that +1. But it looks like both players are content with just waiting till double elixir. But yeah, it should be 3 Musketeers against Mega Knight Lightning. Somehow, the Mega Knight has just kind of stormed back into this meta.
Yeah, that's that. Well, I mean, the big, this has been. I've been thinking about this for a few days now, and here goes Capgun pumping up immediate lightning onto King Tower. I've been thinking about this a fair bit here. I think that this Mega Knight is actually more frustrating than the previous one, right? Because there's been 2 major changes. The drop damage from the Mega Knight was reduced, but then the speed at which it retargets and jumps for its leaps has been reduced as well. So now it moves around faster and is harder to control. I think this Mega Knight is in some ways more dangerous than the previous version.
Especially, I've seen the deck once or twice. No, I think just once at this point. But somebody in one of the real recent matchups swapped the Mega Knight into that Royal Hogs mirror deck. And that deck looks especially scary at this point. So certainly just really fun to watch right there. And a brilliant offensive attack from Osama, getting the tower back, or getting the game back in his advantage. And especially when you're running these Mega Knight Lightning Ram Rider decks, you just, once you get the tower fairly low, it seems like it's fairly easy to get that last damage that you need.
I mean, the pure cheek of Capgun to run 3M against Osama is hilarious. And there you go with the -3 trade as he drops the 3 Musketeers in the pocket. And that 6 Elixir Lightning says bye-bye to those. So that was almost... I think that once it's in a 2-tower game, it was going to be an uphill battle against Mega Knight Lightning for Capgun no matter what. So the cheeky move here to run someone's favorite against them does not pay off for Capgun. And right now the Egyptian back to the wall.
Yeah, and right there, when Capcom used the 3 Musketeers over the middle, I know for a fact Osama celebrated right there, because as a 3 Musketeers player myself, I knew he didn't have the Elixir. The Lightning was going to get that 6-for-9 trade, and it just wasn't the response that should have been placed right there. Anything else could have been played. A pump over the middle would have been a better situation for him. And so, yeah, when you know the deck inside and out, it also helps when you're going against it. Osama, once he recovered from that brutal opening to the game, definitely controlled how the game went.
Cannon cart now for Osama against the Mortar, so very classic drill look here with pressure on both lanes now. Has to control the cannon cart with the Fire Spirit, does it nicely. Archer Queen gonna get supported by the Miner to the safe spot. Doesn't get Archer Queen damage, but a little minor chip there will do its work. First minute 10 away right now. It is the lead for Osama in game number 2, 25-47 to 27-62.
I don't know when it was kind of figured out, I guess. But I see so many players, once the Archer Queen is about 40% health, 50% health, so many players are recognizing, oh, I can just bar barrel high, have, force my opponent to activate the ability, and then the ability is no longer of use once it crosses the tower. And I think, I don't know who the first person was to recognize that, but that has changed the game. It has been, it has gotten significantly easier to defend Archer Queens when they're crossing the bridge when you have bar barrel in your deck.
So here we go, double elixir time. Mortar Miner AQ for Capgun versus the mounting pressure that we've seen out of this drill deck for Osama. We'll see how these two can shake it out. Capgun has had a lot of success in international competition alongside his countryman Mohammed Light, winning no-tilt worlds, the GZG World Cup, and some of their top-tier performances in representing his country. Question is, can he join Mohammed Light one more time at World Finals? Has to make a big performance here in this game and win one more to make that happen.
Yeah, great situation for Capgun and a very good log. It is that mind game between both players where are you going to use the log, are you going to use the Fire Spirit, just the Valkyrie? And right there, Osama does guess incorrectly, and Capgun is able to defend properly and get a nice healthy advantage through there. But so far, Capgun has done a great job of pressuring, forces the E-Wiz out right there, and that is never what you want to do. That Archer Queen just got so much value.
Nice sequence, though, lot on the board for Osama. Minute 41 left. Drill gets down. Guards to pick up against the Drill. A Magic Archer going to try to take off a little bit here. The dash does not quite come in. Lead for Osama, but not by a lot.
Bar Barrel on top of the Archer Queen. Archer Queen's ability will get popped, and that's only 3 elixir. The E-Wiz will come out, but it's going to come out late. And again, another situation. Archer Queen is going to get one shot on the E-Wiz. The Valk or the Log could have been the response for Capgun, and a great spot for Capgun to take the lead. 400 HP separated into 2 players.
That, you know, that's a big question with that miner play, right? You know the AQ's coming in high. You know you want to play one thing to cover them both, but it feels like you got to pick up the you have to predict the miner low and then play something for the Archer Queen high in that situation.
Absolutely, and right there, oh my goodness. I have never seen a match where an E-Wiz got as little value as I've seen in this matchup. Every single time it gets placed, it's a panic placement. And that, I believe it has more to do with Capgun playing the matchup correctly and playing the matchup super, super well. But also, I think the pushes that Osama is setting up just, it's not the pushes that you want to be setting up. I don't think he has enough pressure. I think the drills are getting placed when you don't have, you know, the Magic Archer setup or a Poison is in cycle. And I think just Capgun played this perfectly, and Osama made a lot of mistakes. And
no Golden Knight dash to save the day at the end. Capgun taking game number 2, and here we go, game number 3. 3 to 5 minutes for your future decided right now.
Oh my goodness, Mega Knight, Lightning, Drill NATO, 3 Musketeer Mirror. So that's interesting. So Royal Hogs Mirror is still available for Osama, and Osama has always been known as a Royal Hogs player, so we definitely could see him use that in game number 3. Mirror not available to Capgun, but I'm looking over. Giant Skeleton has not been used on Capgun's end, actually on either player's end. So we could be looking at some Giant Skeleton decks, and I would hope that he's going to be running Royal Hogs on Osama's end.
Looking like it might be the case here. Mother Witch feels like it's Royal Hogs Mirror. We'll see what he protects the Mother Witch with here. And there you have it, exactly what you were hoping for there, Josh. Tombstone to pick up.
And there's one of my Giant Skeletons. We are on our way. 4 elixir, though, for Capgun. And I really like the Zappies over the middle. He kind of has to pressure right here. If he would have been able to keep the Giant Skeleton alive as well as the Fisherman, he would have been in a lot of trouble. Instead, the Zappies are going to take out all the troops as well as most of the Ghost, if not all of the Ghost, trying to see if the tower is going to be able to lock on in time, and it does. A terrible situation for Capgun, but he ends up defending perfectly just with a simple Zappies over the middle.
Capgun did have the slight elixir lead there for the moment before the leakage. On the other side of it, we talked a bit about Capgun's history. Osama been around for quite a while. as you mentioned, a 3M player, and a long-time great ladder player with, I want to say 7 maybe top 10 finishes on ladder. Best finish number 2, has not found that elusive number 1. You got to wonder how much of that is because Three Musketeers, his favorite, has been, well, in the proverbial graveyard for the last few years.
Yeah, it's certainly a mistake to have those be one of your most played decks, but it's a mistake that some people make, and that's okay. Royal Ghost is able to make it to the tower, gets the tower down to 26-43, so slight lead to Capgun, but with these Royal Hog decks, with these giant skeletons, the Ghost, the Mother Witch, he does have pressure on both lanes, so he is still in a fair situation as long as he protects this Mother Witch, but the Fisherman locks onto the wrong troop, but the Fireball is going to protect him.
Final 24 seconds of regulation, arrows in the middle for Osama to clean up some of that Skeleton King play. And one of the interesting factors here, Josh, this might be important, is on Capgun's side, he is playing a champion. He does have that 3-card cycle available in the later moments. Not the same for Osama. So you could say that Mirror. Some people have said, first of all, that Giant Skeleton is almost like a champion now. But in some ways, I almost want to say Mirror is more like that role here in this deck for Osama.
Yeah, I love how it is so fun to use Mirror with champions, with the Elixir Pump, because you can just pull off so many impressive plays. The fact that you can pump, use a champion, and then pump again, use that Mirror, is just devastating to a lot of opponents. And it's honestly shocking that Three Musketeers wasn't able to recover with that in its arsenal. But yeah, there's so many opportunities for the Giant Skeleton, for the Mirror. And it's one of the many, many reasons why this deck is just so strong. But right here, Capcom, again, these Zappies over the middle are just so strong every single time.
Final 70 seconds here. 23-72. Now Pigs go to the opposite lane, picked up by the Tombstone. And it's just been so difficult for Osama to find real breakthroughs. Here he will do enough to take the lead by just a little bit. 1778 to 1854 in the final minute.
There certainly was an opportunity to go in with the double Royal Hogs. Elects not to go with that method. Bar Barrel over the middle. Ghost will be able to protect the Mother Witch, and that is insanely important. No Bar Barrel, not going to be able to use the Fireball as well because he has to worry about both sides. Osama, 30 seconds left, dominating the field right now.
In the middle, Fisherman trying to play some defense, pulls the Hunter away from the Royal Hogs, so Piggies go to that left-hand tower, completely unresponded to. Fireball has to come out. Can Osama defend against this Royal Giant in the middle? Bar Barrel to take out some of these Zappies. RG gets one shot, 1547. Capgun has to try to do something, and something right now. He has nowhere to go here. Osama calling it. Good game, and Osama will take down Capgun and move on to our final qualifier weekend.
No champion, no problem. Osama able to take game number 3, and I think, I really believe that Mirror is kind of in that champion territory. I think in the past couple weeks, especially with this Giant Skeleton Mirror Mother Witch deck, it really is one of the most powerful cards in the meta. And yeah, I think 2 weeks ago I wouldn't have. I don't even know if I would have been putting it like high up in my tier A range, and at this point I put it in my tier S.
Yeah, it's certainly way up there, and you know, talking about way up there, or maybe not so much, the up there decision to go with 3M in game number 1. Josh, I know you love the triplets, but thoughts on that choice in game number 1?
I think it might be the biggest mistake that I've seen in this, at least this stage. And off the top of my head, there's no question about it. You know, it's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if I'd rather have your phone die mid-competition when you're 2-2 than use Three Musketeers in this kind of situation. I think that you shouldn't even have it as one of your 4 decks. It takes away Ghost, it takes away Mirror, it takes away so many opportunities to have these devastating decks like the Mirror Mother Witch Giant Skeleton deck. I don't want to see that again.
So what you're saying is you have no strong feelings about it?
Yeah, none whatsoever.
Cool. I think we're going to get Juicy J back on here in just a moment. Yeah, let's go ahead and get him back on the board. Juicy! I don't know if you can hear me yet. Yeah, there we go, Juicy. Interesting matchup here between Capgun and Osama. It feels like this mostly came down to deck selection on the side of Capgun.
Yeah, I think deck selection was important, but I also think Capgun made quite a few mistakes. I don't know, he was missing like a Zappy here and there with his fireballs, sometimes fireballing a Mother Witch where his Zappies were already going to take her out. Just not perfect gameplay overall. I think if he did play perfect, there's a good chance he could have won that last matchup. Having the fireball against the fireball bait deck is really, really important and solid for him. So I do think it is deck selections. I do think playing 3M is not a really good play like you guys are talking about. But I do think if he played perfectly in that last match, he could have given himself a better chance.
Well, better chance will have to come next year because that's the end of Capgun's 2022 campaign as Osama joins our top 16. Reminder, the top 10 will move on to World Finals. And here's how it's going to work, by the way. Next weekend, we're going to have another Swiss bracket where we divide this group in half again. 8 go on and 8. Then we'll have to come back on Sunday to play for the final 2 spots. So you do have 10 of 16 moving on, but you certainly want to be in that top 8 half of it rather than that bottom 8 half of it. So that will be a full weekend, 2 days of Clash Royale competition here next weekend for those of you who have not yet subscribed. And by the way, if you haven't so far, go ahead, hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube and hit that bell so you get your notifications for the remainder of CRL, including World Finals. And if you're watching on Twitch or elsewhere, hit that follow button. Make sure that you come back for the next one around. We are going to our 5th game of the day. Hoobie, aka Faust, against Nikoko. Guys, you take it away.
Oh man, it is brilliant. it is brilliant working with Rich because he's able to just throw himself off the cast, and it's a difficult thing to do. But I think he's done it like 3 times now, and he pulls it off every single time.
He does. That's true. I didn't even think about that. All right, we got a Skelly King RG Mother Witch versus Miner Musketeer Poison Delivery. So Miner control deck, Miner Poison control. I mean, if you're Faust here, I think you got to be pretty happy about this one. Having the poison for that Mother Witch and that Tombstone and stuff like that will be good. Oh, Nico does have the Fisherman to pull in those Miners. Oh, the poison for the Zappies as well. Whereas on defense, it's really going to depend on if what Faust's building is. If Nico can like break through or not.
Yeah, and right there does force out the fireball, does not hit the miner, so that miner is going to chip away on the tower, getting it down to 2588. And this is a lot of skeletons stacked up. This is a lot of troops stacked up entirely. But the Musketeer plus the delivery plus the bats, I'm not sure how I feel about popping the ability right there. What are your thoughts on that?
You got a couple shots off it. It is 2 elixirs, not a whole lot. I think it was generally worth it. Did give his Mother Witch time to basically take some pop shots at those bats and get some pigs spawning. Overall, I think it was a solid play. This Musketeer locking on, though. Not a solid play from Nico here. Not getting that Barbro quite down in time, and Faust is going to be able to take that damage lead back without really having to do much.
So as we head into double elixir, Faust is likely going to have Skarmy and Mortar as his last 2 cards. Nikoko has shown all 8 of his cards. Another very important question I have to ask you, and I'm glad that I get to be the one to bring it up. What are your thoughts on the new update to the image of the RG?
I see so many memes on Twitter about it. I don't know. I don't really mind it. I know some people that just hate it. I don't really mind it. He looks like an absolute Chad, I can tell you that much.
You know, I was looking at my Twitter recently, and I haven't tweeted anything like personally for the last 2 or 3 months, and until I realized that everybody else was talking about it, I was 8 seconds away from making my first tweet in 3 months about that. So It did invoke strong emotions from me. 8 seconds left. And wow, the Musketeer is going to lock on for 3 shots, getting the tower down to 966 HP. So a huge turnaround right there. Skeleton King is fully activated, so he is going to be able to pop the ability when he chooses to do so. Going to be able to take out the Fisherman and allow for the Musketeer to lock on to the opposing Skeleton King.
I mean, overall, this game's going pretty well for Faust. Like, I feel like Nico's just making a couple mistakes, letting these Musketeers lock on. Maybe in that last connection, not realizing the Zappies weren't far enough up. And as it goes into further into overtime and it hits triple elixir, Faust is going to be able to just spam some miners and some poisons using that 3-card cycle from the Skelly King. And I don't think it should be a problem for him.
Right there, I thought that the Skeleton King was actually going to lock onto the tower when it was hitting the Fisher. Yeah, somehow, some way, it does not. So the Musketeers are making it. The Skeleton King is not. 106 left in the game. We see the RG get cycled in the back. And this is just such an unfortunate position. Nikoko electing to go in with another Tombstone, trying to activate the ability, trying to set something up for him. And that's going to be, you know, a lot of pressure, but we are just going to see the Poison again. This time, Poison not taking out the Mother Witch, and all of a sudden, this is fairly intimidating on Nikoko's end.
Yeah, not hitting that Poison definitely made a big difference here. Also doing a good job just mitigating, allowing his opponent to split damage on his strong side tower. And now we're 30 seconds left. Miner comes in, Poison comes in, Skelly King is down as well, so the 3-card cycle will be activated. Another Miner and Poison will be coming extremely soon, if I had to guess. He might just opt to go ahead and set for some nice defense, though. Muskie, Skarmy, roll delivery, gonna drop down and make sure everything gets taken out, especially since he's up in damage. He doesn't need to be extremely aggressive, and it looks like that's gonna be a W for Faust here in game 1.
Yeah, with its dying breath, the Mortar does take out the Mother Witch, and when you look at this matchup, the Mother Witch appears to get, you know, a tremendous amount of value throughout, but overall, it felt like the Mother Witch really never did anything. The one time where I really thought it was going to do something, I think there was about 45 seconds left in the game, and then the Skeleton King was just plopped down, and it protected the bats that were alive. So Faust, just an incredible job of not allowing the Mother Witch to get the value it needed to get.
That's absolutely correct. I 100% agree. I feel like most players are going to struggle against the Mother Witch in a matchup like that, but Faust always using his Skelly King and maybe like a Miner or even the roll delivery to make sure that Mother Witch is not getting the value that Nico needed in order to win that game.
As we head into game number 2, no Poison available for Faust, so he is going to run Golden Knight, NATO, probably just going to be the drill deck that we've seen so much. And Nikoko on the other side going to be running Knight. I think that's the first. I think that's the first appearance of the Knight.
It's definitely been a while. So many better options: Skelly King, Mighty Miner, Golden Knight, Valkyrie. A lot of the champs and the Valkyrie on top of that, but here we see the Knight. Knight is the one nice thing about the Knight is he's cheap. He's only 3 elixir. Gets the tanking job done.
Well, and so here's an interesting thing. I would assume that it's probably going to be looking at Graveyard Mortar on Nikoko's end.
Yeah.
And there we go. We are going to see the Graveyard, but this is just... Yeah, it feels like Knight is never the best option whatsoever. I guess I like that it's used in this deck. If I wanted to see a Knight be played, it would be in this deck.
Yeah, but even in this situation, wow, that Magic Archer Tornado was huge. It's not locked on the tower. It was so close though. But as I was saying, I think even Valkyrie would be really important in this sort of matchup to have Valkyrie for the drill and all of the Bridge Fam units. Knight's just not really going to get the job done when it comes down to defense. You know, he's doing his best right here. He's not able to splash the goblins. He is going to prevent that damage. But really nothing compared to the Valkyrie. And I think we're going to see that become a big factor the longer this game goes on.
Right there, Cannon Cart over the middle, going to be able to take out the Knight and then work on the Skeletons as well. I was fairly certain that we did not see any skeleton damage whatsoever, but at the very end, he is able to get it. So right here, this is the problem with these Knight Graveyard decks. The NATO is going to come out, not going to get onto the tower, but is going to take out most of the troops. It's just, it struggles on defense. Once you have the pushes going, the Knight doesn't do enough, and this is really where the Valk would help out a lot in this matchup. You know, the drill is important, but the Knight can still sometimes put in work. But when it's 4 troops over the middle, the Valk is so spectacular at defending.
Yeah, getting all that splash damage. I wonder what Nico's last card here. Gotta be a big spell, right? I'd have to assume. Ooh, the Magic Archer is locked on here. Snowball gonna knock it away. But the Tornado is going to make up for that. Magic Archer getting so much value here. Cannon Cart comes down to take that out, but the existing Cannon Cart that was still in his cannon form from Faust going to take that out and get a nice... Not only did he get a lot of damage there, but he prevented the counter push basically in its entirety. And, you know, Faust is just in control right now, it seems.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have that great of a response to these Mega Minions. Somehow it is being defended. I mean, it is being placed defensively and still getting taken out. So that is not something I really expected when I saw this match. Right here, Cannon Cart over the middle, you know what it's going to do. It's going to take out the Knight, still tank really well. And that is a great NATO, pulling everything back. And we finally see the spell, the poison just not, I guess, not having any opportunities throughout this game.
Yeah, I think Faust has done a really good job of like spreading out his stuff. And I think the reason why the Mega Minion is not getting as much value as you might think is because of how awesome Faust's use of the Tornado is. And as we could see there in that last defense, using the Tornado, pulling those units back, not allowing a unit to come down and tank for that Graveyard, makes the defense so much more manageable.
And right here, again, troops are not crossing the bridge in time for the tower to lock onto the wrong thing. Instead, the Magic Archer in the back, plus the tower is going to be able to take it out, but right there, right side gets taken out. Faust with the clean 2-0. And congratulations to Faust. He's going to move on to the next stage.
Yeah, overall just good control there from both players, or both from Faust. I think that the only way Nico really wins that is, I mean, he was getting really close to the end there. He was building that huge push. Faust not having the big spell, kind of using that Golden Knight, getting some unlucky with that dash, getting some Graveyard Skeletons instead of what he needed it to. If he could have just done that a little bit sooner, get like a double Cannon Cart push even, that's probably the only way that he could have won that game.
So, overall, how do you feel about that Knight Graveyard Mortar deck? Do you think it was a great choice? Is it good to have in your duel setup?
I mean, you know me, I'm a Graveyard player, but the Graveyard decks that I like to play are counter push oriented, and I'm just not a huge fan of like Mortar Graveyard decks because it seems like it's just a sad middle between like a big beatdown oriented like counter push deck and also like a chip deck where you're trying to chip away at the mortars throughout the game. I think it would be a lot better if maybe if we saw like a bar barrel or like some sort of extra spell or even another troop that could basically contribute to the counter pushes but also help deal with the Magic Archers. I think the Magic Archer was the thing that got the most value from Faust in that matchup.
I see what you're saying, Rich. I want to hear your thoughts on this set overall. If you liked the deck number 2 and just your overall thoughts.
Well, in the end, it's the main thing is that I got it right when I realized that Hubie was Faust, and with the pick of Faust on the back end. You know, Graveyard is a strange pick right now in the meta overall. There's not a lot of Graveyard being played anywhere, and I think that Jackson kind of hit the nail on the head there, which this deck was kind of in between things, and going with this Graveyard deck cannibalized a lot of other stuff that was much stronger overall in the meta. Cannibalized decks that could have used the Mortar more effectively, used the Cannon Cart more effectively. Knight is got a weird spot in the game right now, so I think what's been said has all been pretty much spot on here, and now we get a really interesting position here for Faust, who is just a few wins away from making a trip to World Finals and maybe finally realizing the promise of the potential.
And yeah, hopefully we might be able to see Morton. We might be able to see Faust. Both of those players have just been in the scene for so long and just always have so much potential to go far. So yeah, hopefully we do get to see that soon.
Well, and now we get into our final matchup of the day, and this matchup probably couldn't be more of a gap, other than when we saw this player, Abbas, against Surgical Goblin, the most decorated player of all time, against a player who has 0 competitive achievements, right? Abbas is kind of out of nowhere. His personal best on ladder is 8.3K. He has a top 100 finish, I think 59th is his personal best on ladder, but has not done anything in a single competitive arena for Clash Royale in his entire career. This is his competitive debut, is CRL, is this moment here. And now that he's up against a guy like Sandbox, who over the last 2 years has been placing high in every single top tier competition, it seems, right? In 2021, all of the Queso Cups, all of the Revel organized tournaments, all the way through a great performance through CRL, and then of course this year as well. So you couldn't get further from it. Does anybody out there have any information about Abbas? Juicy, anything about this guy?
Nope.
I mean,
I don't know much about him at all.
Josh, you got anything on him?
The only thing that I can add for Abbas is that these last 2 sets, looking at it, KK he lost 0-2, and Luminary he lost 0-2. So hopefully he's able to recover, and I think he needs to start off with a Game 1 victory.
So we are either going to get one of the top-rated players of the last 2 years, and Sandbox moving to our top 16, or a player who has never played competitive until this event into our top 16, and we'll find out over these next 3 games. We'll catch up with Josh a little bit later. Juicy, it's you and me, and Abbas going with not the most popular drill variation, but drill wall breakers certainly in the mix.
Yep, drill wall breakers, drill spam, as I like to call it, versus a drill kind of bridge spam, control-y. We've seen this matchup once before, actually, and I think the... Oh yeah, it was when the cannon cart locked on the left, so it was a very close game. I'm guessing that we're gonna see something very similar here. It's probably gonna be a close match, and it's gonna just matter. It's just gonna matter how many fireballs a boss can get on the tower. That's a big thing, and it's gonna matter how precise his defense can be to prevent those magic archers and those cannon carts, and even those golden knights from getting locked onto the tower.
And a little surprised there to see the cycled magic archer behind that tower for fireball value. We'll see if Sandbox avoids that as we go on. I'm seeing somebody in chat here saying that Abbas runs Dark Goblin Mirror Logbait on ladder and is very good with it. And speaking of ladder, Abbas is a member of, as you can see in the top screen, AK Syndicate, one of the top ladder clans out there. You see a lot of top tier pros sporting that clan tag every once in a while in their career.
Yeah, absolutely. AK Syndicate, one of the biggest or longest lasting ladder clans in Clash Royale. That's actually the first clan I ever joined back when I was like 14 or 15. It's kind of funny. But yeah, Boss taking quite a nice damage lead at the start here. This is something we did not see the first time we looked at this matchup. So he's looking pretty good. Sandbox has got to try and find a way to break through that Valkyrie Inferno defense. It's definitely a very strong controlling defense there.
Dark Prince is going to get some life here. Wall breakers go to pop the drill, and the NATO tries to get a bit cheeky with it, does Sandbox, gets some damage, but I think that NATO, a bit of an overspend, and now you see the counter push coming in with the drill plus Fire Spirit. Barb Barrel goes high. Dark Prince does pick up cleanly. These have been very interesting counter plays on both sides.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the difference in the deck, really. A boss has the quick cycle, and you can apply some pressure with, you know, his cheap units like the Fire Spirit and the Wall Breakers along with the drill. But, you know, Sandbox can afford to overspend in certain situations if he has good defense, because there's no true real threat. Not a threat like Sandbox has, like a counter pushing Golden Knight or Magic Archer, or even a cannon card that could, you know, change the tide of a match in a matter of seconds.
And I see someone in chat asking where's Abbas from. Abbas is from Iraq. And right now he's trying to hold strong here. And you're seeing Sandbox doing a good job of forcing these Valkyries out high. So Abbas is defending the drills with the wall breakers plus bomber. Those wall breakers don't get through. Damage now for Abbas. About 21-30. Pretty close towers on both sides for Sandbox, who does have the slightly behind with 22-24 on the left-hand side.
Drill, cannon car on the left, drill on the right, does get picked up by the Dark Prince. The Goblin does get one stabbing. Once again, going back to what I was talking about before in this matchup, Abbas having the understanding that needs to go opposite lane of the lane that Sandbox is attacking to prevent those huge counter pushes. 40 seconds left in the game. A tornado prevents these wall breakers from connecting. The bombers getting immaculate amounts of value in the middle of the map here, taking everything out, including that drill. Cannon cart does not lock on this time in front of dropping down in time. 25 seconds. Super close game. Abbas does have that fireball for the direct damage, but Sandbox, can Sandbox find a drill connection? Can he find a Magic Archer or Golden Knight Tornado? 10 seconds here.
81. And he decides to go into this lane rather than the opposite side, and that's not going to be enough damage here as the drill connects on the left, wall breakers in. Can he NATO this away? Will they get the damage? 1971, not enough. Abbas takes game number 1 and holds on by just 35 HP. Juicy. What? I mean, Sandbox going with the lane switch, trying to go for the Magic Archer value into the same lane here. Was that the right call? Was that a throw? Or did Abbas just outplay?
I feel like Abbas's defense was perfect there, but maybe you're right. Maybe if he saves his Magic Archer to go along with that tornado that he used on the left-hand side, he could have got enough damage to secure that victory. Super close game. 35 HP. Doesn't really get closer than that.
And now the most unknown player in our top 32 with a chance here, one game away from moving into our top 16 in this qualifier.
Yup, and we have a Hog EQ versus a Mirror Bait. I think overall Hog EQ should win this, but the Goblin Barrel, Mirror Goblin Barrel is doing quite a bit of damage on the right hand side, but the Queen's gonna even do a lot more than that. So yeah, I mean, Sandbox is looking pretty good right here. If Abbas can defend really well and potentially use his rocket to basically outspell the Earthquakes in this match, he definitely could win. The only thing is, I'm not sure if he has a rocket. Usually, well, I bet he does. I bet his last rocket.
There it is.
Last card gonna be rocket and either Dark Goblin or Princess.
I think Dark Goblin, I mean, this looks like this is the deck that he runs on ladder. Apparently he's put up 30 GCs, GC finishes, GC 12 wins with this deck very recently. So normally he runs this with Fire Spirit, but Ice Spirit for a little bit of a difference. So we had Fire Spirit in other decks.
Yeah, he uses the Fire Spirit in that first match, going with the Ice Spirit. Ice Spirit's a really solid card. It is weird to see. Usually the Fire Spirit is kind of necessary versus like spamming kind of things like the bats or minions or stuff like that. And yeah, Sandbox last card being Delivery. So Abbas does go to his one-trick deck, but Sandbox kind of predicting that switch back to Comfort. Has the Roll Delivery and the Log for the barrels and the Mirror barrels. He's got the Earthquake, and he's got the Queen 3-card cycle as well with the Hog Rider to break through. And he's got a nice damage lead right now. If Sandbox keeps playing like he is, he should get this W.
And now you see the barrel right behind. The going for the trick barrel, the deep one. Rocket does get its damage on tower, 1591. But this Hog is going to get one shot. Does Fire Spirit get in? And it does. And that was a second shot too, 436. It feels like Abbas could have been in this game if it weren't for that last exchange.
Yeah, last exchange. He also took a lot of damage in the single elixir. I think the biggest thing that we're not seeing here is you can actually use an anti-earthquake cannon placement and use another card like a Log or an Ice Spirit or anything really to push it over to that anti-earthquake cannon. And that's something that we're not seeing him do at all, which is a huge mistake. It makes it so that Hog is very difficult to stop. I think another thing that Abbas could have done to give himself a better chance here is use a Mighty Miner plus Log to fully counter the Hog. And that way, if your opponent uses the pre-earthquake for the cannon, you're spending 7 elixir, you're countering Earth 6, and we have a full health Mighty Miner counter pushing. So you can basically use that Mighty Miner 3-card cycle to maybe try and outcycle that log delivery combo with your mirror barrels, or just cycle a bunch of rockets on the tower. But that's not what happened. Sandbox is going to take that first game, and now we're hopping in the second one.
AQ and Golden Knight both out for Sandbox. Mighty Miner the only one out for a boss, so he does have 3 options to choose from here in this game, and chooses to go with the Skeleton King, which will be helpful against these Royal Hogs.
Yep, and Sandbox, without like using a couple good champions already, using this deck that doesn't have the champs, the Mother Witch, Giant Skelly Mirror deck. And you guys were talking about this deck a little bit earlier, about how it doesn't have a champion in it and how that kind of influences it. I think the main reason this deck doesn't have a champion in it is because of how sheerly strong the mirror is. And you guys were talking about how it's really, like, sometimes it can be really useful to, you know, play a card, play champ, and then mirror something. But in a deck like this, where mirror is so strong when it's used with all of the different cards, it makes it so that having the champion, a card that you can't mirror, it's kind of not good. Like, you want to be able to mirror everything in your deck, basically.
Arrows to clear out some of those skeletons. Giant Skeleton does get pulled up high by the Tombstone, as Flying Machine should stay out of that bomb range, and it does. Not going to support it here is a boss. He's going to go ahead and let it go across, and setting up for something big here. So looking like lava from a
Big
boss.
Yeah, big lava deck from a boss. Miner as well. No balloon. Nice Miner Skelly King deck.
And that's, again, a nice Miner going to the inside there, maybe predicting the Fisherman play for the pull, and instead forcing Fisherman to walk in. As
Absolutely.
Sandbox gets some good counter push here with those piggy damage.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Sandbox has a really nice hold on this match, mainly because the only spell a boss has is the arrows, and the arrows are just not enough to take out those zappies, the Mother Witch, or even the mirror zappies. And I would not be surprised to see some mirror zappies from Sandbox right now, kind of realizing this.
Sandbox letting the elixir get all the way to 10 here, drops pigs high instead of mirroring those zappies.
Getting that Mother Witch down as well. A boss does counter everything quite well. And Sandbox does the same with a very nice arrows after the Lava Hound dies, mirroring the Mother Witch instead of the zappies here.
And that's
a nice level 13 piggies there. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's one of the things we've talked about as being kind of a big key in this matchup. Not just this matchup specifically, but in these matchups, is figuring out when mirroring Mother Witch is the route to go, and just how powerful having a level 13 Mother Witch behind can influence the outcomes here. Flying Machine not going to connect there. Mother Witch plays that defense nicely.
Yep, and I would not be surprised to start seeing Sandbox mirror some pigs as it reaches further in this match, and as the boss's tower gets lower and lower.
Giant Skeleton gets in close, but not quite. 33 HP, and that's going to be it. Sandbox ends the dream run of the underdog, a boss. On the map now, his first competitive experience is making it very deep into CRL, but not going to go any further. It's Sandbox making our top 16 in a come-from-behind reverse sweep play and getting himself on through to our final qualifier weekend. Very well played by Sandbox, and congratulations, Abbas, for your competitive debut.
Yeah, I think both players played well. Maybe the deck pick from a boss at the end there could be a little bit different. I don't know, just not having a big spell, or at least maybe arrows plus a zap or arrows plus snowball to help deal with those zappies, Mother Witches, and stuff like that. It's definitely risky, to say the least. I think that's really the main reason that Sandbox was able to come out on top in that last match.
Well, Sandbox did, and he joins our top 16 overall. I think we're going to get Josh back on here in just a moment to sort of round out some of those thoughts. Josh, you know, a nice performance. Abbas took a gutsy win there in game number 1. Game number 2, it felt like Sandbox kind of had his number with the deck pick against that log bait.
Yeah, the log, the quick cycle, the hog EQ. One of the things that I was really excited to mention was brought up by Juicy, so I no longer get to talk about it, but I would have loved to see him try and pull off the anti-earthquake cannon. I think you got to mix it up. You got to try something new. You have to think outside of the box when your opponent has a log and a delivery, when you have the bait and the mirror. So yeah, I would have liked to see him try a few new things. I don't think it would have mattered. And then game number 3, it was more of the same when it came to matchups. It's probably not the worst matchup in the world, but as soon as he realized double mother, which was the route that he wanted to go, and he defended properly, got the arrows value whenever he needed it, it was just complete control as soon as double elixir hit. And both game number 2 and number 3, it just looked like it was Sandbox's game to win.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket from today and review kind of what the path was here. Remember, this was the first of 2 Swiss brackets. So we started with 32 players, and as they won and lost, they sorted themselves out. And that magic number, 3 wins, puts you in, 3 losses knocked you out. We're down to our top 16. The players who went 3-0, those first 4 players, Sweep, Dudu, Vitor, and KK all going 3-0. Then a whole selection of 3-1 players, Pandora, Morton, Ender, Air Surfer, Luminary, and Doom. And then qualifying by the skin of their teeth in that last box, the 3-2 qualifiers. Osama, you just saw, Adriel, Hooby, aka Faust, Trainer Toby, and the big news of it all, Surgical Goblin, with a next step to making another appearance at a Clash Royale League World Finals. So there you have your qualifiers who've gone through that very, very strong bracket. Here we look at what's going to happen next weekend on Saturday. Our 16 players with another one of these, 3 being the magic number one more time. If you win, you keep on going on. We'll get that first round done. Then the round 2 players, 1-0s, will play the 1-0s. The 0-1s will play the 0-1s. Same thing here. 8 players this time, though. You got to win 3 to move on. You lose 3, you're out. And you'll see we can get 3 players at 3-0, or 2 players at 2-0, and then 3 at 3-1, and 3 and 3 at 2. So we'll see who makes it through. Of course, if you do lose those 3 games, this time your tournament is not over. On Sunday, we will have our last chance qualifiers, where the 8 players who do not make it on Saturday will play in a single elimination bracket, where the top 2 will qualify for CRL World Finals. That's going to be a crazy weekend. Jackson, let's go to you. It's been a big day today. Let's get some of your final thoughts here. Who was your favorite player to watch of the day? Did you have any moments that really stood out to you from this wonderful Saturday?
Well, just want to point out, I called it Sweep 3-0. You love to see it. I'm happy to see Morton and Surge make it to the next one. I would love to see both of them in the World Finals. Happy to see Sandbox making it through at the end there. Was kind of rooting for the underdog there at the end as well, but, you know, first competition being this big of one, you can't be too sad to take an L there. But, yeah, that's probably my final thoughts.
Josh, on your side, do you have the most virulent caster curse in all of esports, or are we going to see you predict, like, calling anybody or comping anyone next weekend?
I will say that I did mention Osama's name, and so, you know, I have a little bit of good going for me. I've also supported Air Surfer publicly, and he's still in here, so, you know, that's something to look at. Overall, though, no huge surprises. I think Greco is probably the one surprise that didn't qualify. And then for the positives, KK going 3-0 was a very welcome surprise.
And a big one for KK, so we'll see if we continue that luck next weekend. And of course, where do you watch next weekend? You watch right here where you already are. So if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications, make sure those are on so that you know when we go live next weekend on Saturday and on Sunday for that top 16 and for the LCQ. If you're on Twitch, hit that follow button, make sure you're back here again. For everyone here at Clash Royale League, for Joshua AC Sharon, for our newcomer, congrats on finishing your first broadcast here with us, Jackson Juicy J Wall. I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you back here next weekend for Clash Royale League.